Tonight, before drifting into sleep, try imagining that tiny particles of dust are quietly falling onto your rooftop right now. Not dust from the road outside your window, not ash or sand from Earth, but dust arriving from deep space, particles that once drifted between the stars, fragments of matter older than the planet we live on, grains of dust carrying within them the memory of suns that died billions of years ago. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings have always been fascinated by the night sky, not only because of its beauty, but because somewhere deep within the mind, we feel that we belong to that universe. Perhaps that is why when we look at the stars, we feel both very small and strangely nostalgic, as though remembering something impossibly distant. And the extraordinary thing is, that feeling is not entirely imagination, because modern science has discovered a truth that feels almost poetic. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in every breath you are taking right now, were all once forged inside the hearts of ancient stars. We truly are made of stardust. In tonight's journey, we will slowly travel through the cosmos to explore the oldest dust grains ever discovered, how dust creates stars and planets, why galaxies shine because of dust, and how life on Earth may have begun from tiny particles drifting through the cold darkness of space. This is not only a story about astronomy, it is a story about the memory of the universe, a gentle, reflective story filled with cosmic wonder, meant to help you slow down, relax, and let your thoughts drift among the stars before sleep. And if you enjoy journeys where science, cosmic history, Jungian psychology, and quiet reflections on existence blend together like a late-night dream, then subscribe to the YouTube channel Stories for Sleep and continue traveling with us through the depths of the human mind and the universe. And now, dim the lights a little more, relax your shoulders, and listen to the story of the dust that existed before the sun itself. Cosmic dust is far from ordinary. Perhaps, if someone asked us what the smallest thing in the universe might be, we would think of a grain of sand, a drop of water, or a tiny speck of dust floating through afternoon sunlight. Dust has always seemed ordinary to human beings, something settling on bookshelves, something wiped away every morning, something almost invisible and hardly worth noticing. And yet the strange truth is this: the universe itself was built from things that small. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the human mind is naturally drawn toward what appears in enormous planets, suns, mountains, oceans, and brilliant galaxies shining in darkness. But Jung believed that sometimes the greatest power hides within things almost invisible, like a small memory capable of changing an entire life, a brief dream that haunts someone for years, or a tiny grain of dust that becomes the beginning of a world. Imagine that right now, out there in the darkness of deep space, countless dust particles are drifting silently between the stars, some smaller than cells, some too tiny for the human eye to see. And yet those grains of dust create planets, create oceans, create atmospheres, and eventually create life itself. It sounds more like poetry than science, but it is one of the truest realities of the cosmos. According to astronomers, every planet began as dust. Every star was born within cold clouds of cosmic dust. And even the human body carries traces of those ancient particles. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the carbon inside every cell. All of it once existed inside stars that died long before Earth appeared. According to Jung, some scientific truths touch the human soul more deeply than mythology, because they make us feel that we are not separate from the universe. We belong to it. Perhaps that is why when people stare into the night sky, they often feel a strange and gentle sadness, a feeling both unfamiliar and deeply familiar, as though somewhere deep within the mind, we still remember that we once belonged to the stars. If we travel backward in time to before the birth of the sun, there would be no Earth, oceans, forests, or human beings. Only darkness, cold clouds of gas, and dust, ancient particles floating silently through endless space. Some formed when giant stars entered their final stages of life. Others created in violent supernova explosions so bright their light could outshine entire galaxies. When stars die, they do not disappear completely. In a sense, they become dust. According to Jung, this is a beautiful symbol of transformation. In nature, death is rarely a complete ending. It is often the beginning of something else. Leaves decay to nourish soil, bodies return to nature, and stars become dust to create new worlds. Perhaps cosmic dust is the physical memory of dead suns. Imagine a tiny dust grain drifting through space for billions of years. It may have passed through glowing nebulae, drifted beside lifeless planets, crossed the darkness between stars, and finally fallen to Earth on a quiet night. And the remarkable thing is, this is truly happening. Every single day, cosmic dust quietly falls onto our planet. Tons of material from space enter Earth's atmosphere every year, yet humanity barely notices. According to Jung, the human mind usually pays attention only to what is loud. We are drawn toward explosions, bright lights, dramatic events. Meanwhile, the things that change life most deeply often arrive quietly. Like cosmic dust, it creates no sound. It does not blaze across the sky like meteors. It does not shake the heavens. It simply drifts downward onto rooftops, oceans, forests, deserts, and even the shoulders of sleeping people. There is something profoundly gentle in that thought, that the universe is not entirely distant. It touches Earth every day. According to Jung, modern people often feel lonely because we imagine ourselves separated from nature and the cosmos. But cosmic dust reminds us there is no absolute boundary between us and the stars. Deep space does not end at the sky. It exists in the air, in the oceans, and within our own bodies. If you watch sunlight entering through a window in the afternoon, you can see tiny particles floating through the light. Perhaps the universe is like that too, only unimaginably larger. Galaxies, nebulae, and newborn stars, all drifting through the light of space like dust within a dark room. According to Jung, human beings constantly search for meaning in primal images such as the sky, darkness, light, and dust, because they reflect the inner landscape of the soul. Dust is especially strange. It represents fragility, forgetting, death, and yet at the same time, rebirth. In many ancient cultures, people believed we come from dust and return to dust. Modern science unexpectedly gives that idea new depth, because not only our bodies, but this entire planet was born from stardust. Perhaps everything beautiful in the universe begins very small. A star begins as dust. A planet begins as dust. Life begins from tiny atoms drifting through primordial darkness. And perhaps the greatest transformations in human life begin the same way. A small thought, a small memory, a tiny hope carried through darkness. According to Jung, the human soul resembles a vast night sky. Some regions are bright, others remain unexplored darkness, and somewhere among everything, dust particles of memory drift silently. Old dreams, unnamed emotions, distant sorrows. Perhaps that is why the story of cosmic dust moves people so deeply, because it is not only a story about astronomy, it is a story about origin, about connection, and about the truth that everything in the universe is connected in quiet and beautiful ways. Imagine billions of years ago, an ancient star exploding somewhere within the galaxy, its light spreading through darkness, its matter dissolving into dust. Then, millions of years later, those same particles gathering together to become the Sun, Earth, Oceans, forests, and a human being lying quietly listening to this story before sleep. According to Jung, this is what he called a feeling of unity, the realization that we are not truly separate from the universe. We are part of a story the stars began long before humanity existed. And perhaps that is the most beautiful thing about cosmic dust, not its size, not its age, but the fact that those nearly invisible grains quietly carried the memory of the universe itself and eventually became everything we have ever loved. Dust older than Earth itself. Perhaps one of the strangest feelings a human being can experience is realizing that we can touch something older than Earth itself. Not pyramids, not dinosaur fossils, not ancient mountains or oceans, but tiny grains of dust, nearly invisible to the eye, that existed before the sun was born. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the human mind has always been fascinated by things carrying traces of the beginning. We long to know where everything started, what existed before us, and whether anything could survive almost the entire history of the known universe. Perhaps those ancient grains of dust are the closest answer humanity has found. If we travel back more than 4.6 billion years, there would be no Earth, no oceans, no forests or birdsong. Even the sun did not yet exist, only cold clouds drifting silently through deep space. Yet somewhere within that darkness, dust already existed. Particles born from stars, even older than the solar system itself. Some formed inside aging red giant stars, ancient suns nearing the ends of their lives after millions of years of burning. Others were forged in supernova explosions, when stars died in bursts so violent their light could cross entire galaxies. According to Jung, death in nature is rarely an ending. It is transformation. A dying star does not vanish completely. It becomes gas, light, and dust. Perhaps cosmic dust is the ash of ancient suns. And the remarkable thing is, those particles survived. They drifted through interstellar darkness for billions of years. They endured radiation, collisions, extreme cold, and the chaos of the early cosmos. Yet somehow, they remained. According to Jung, human beings are deeply moved by things that survive through time. An old letter, a childhood memory, a song still echoing generations later, or a grain of dust that crossed billions of years of darkness before finally landing in human hands. Perhaps that is why scientists call them pre-solar grains, dust older than the sun itself. If you looked at one under a microscope, it would not appear magnificent. It is incredibly small, so small it almost seems meaningless, and yet inside it lies the history of stars that died before Earth existed. According to Jung, this is a profound symbol of memory itself. The most important things are not always enormous. Sometimes, an immense past is preserved inside something tiny, like a scent-preserving childhood, a melody awakening forgotten memories, or a microscopic grain of dust containing the trace of a vanished sun. Scientists discovered these ancient grains inside primitive meteorites, rocks that remained mostly unchanged since the formation of the solar system. And what makes the discovery extraordinary is how researchers identified them, not by sight, but by atomic fingerprints. Each star creates elements in slightly different ways. That leaves behind unique isotopic patterns, almost like the signature of a sun. According to Jung, every living thing leaves traces of itself in the world. Human beings leave behind memories, art, voices, and emotions. Stars do the same. They leave signatures inside dust. There is something deeply beautiful in that idea, that even after dying, a star leaves behind a chemical whisper drifting through the universe. Imagine one ancient dust grain telling its story. It might say, "I once existed inside a giant red star. I witnessed the explosion of a supernova. I drifted through darkness between stars for billions of years, and eventually, I became part of your world. According to Jung, human beings constantly search for connection with something beyond themselves. Perhaps, nothing makes us feel simultaneously smaller and more sacred than realizing that some of the matter inside our bodies once belonged to ancient stars. If you look at your hands beneath soft nighttime light, it is difficult to imagine that the atoms inside them drifted through space before Earth even formed. Yet it is true. According to science, nearly every atom heavier than hydrogen inside your body was created inside stars, which means human beings do not simply live within the universe. We are the universe. According to Jung, moments when human beings realize they belong to something vastly greater than themselves often create feelings both peaceful and overwhelming. They make everyday worries feel smaller, because on the scale of stars, everything on Earth is brief, and yet at the same time, life becomes even more precious. Because within that cold and infinite cosmos, ancient matter somehow learned how to become alive. Perhaps that is the greatest miracle. Not that stars exist, but that their ashes eventually became capable of thinking, feeling, loving, and wondering about their own origins. Imagine a distant night, long ago, an ancient star exploding somewhere in the galaxy, its light spreading into darkness, its matter dissolving into dust, those particles drifting for billions of years, then eventually gathering together to become the sun, earth, oceans, forests, and finally, a human being quietly listening to this story before sleep. According to Jung, this is what he called symbolic unity, the realization that we are not separate from the universe. We are the result of a transformation unfolding across billions of years. Part of the history of stars is still alive within every cell, and perhaps that is why these ancient dust grains move humanity so deeply. Because they are not merely the oldest material ever touched, they are memory, the memory of dead suns, ancient explosions, and the era before this planet existed, a kind of memory, written not in language, but in atoms. And if we think deeply enough, the strangest thing is not that these particles survived. It is that, after billions of years drifting through endless darkness, the universe eventually created a being curious enough to look at them and understand that it was touching the history of the stars themselves. Earth is constantly bathed in cosmic dust. One of humanity's greatest illusions is the feeling that Earth is somehow separate from the universe. We live beneath this sky every day, walk familiar streets, sleep beneath familiar roofs, and slowly begin to believe that space is far away, that the stars belong to another world, that the universe exists only above our heads, somewhere beyond ordinary life. But the strange truth is this: the universe has never truly been far away. According to science, right now, while you quietly listen to this story in the darkness of night, Earth is still being bathed in cosmic dust. Every day, tons of material from space silently enter our planet's atmosphere. No sound, no brilliant flashes, almost nobody notices. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings usually pay attention only to things that are large and dramatic. We notice meteors, eclipses, supernovae, or violent solar storms, but most of the universe works quietly. Just like the human mind, the deepest transformations inside us often happen in silence. A small memory, a passing emotion, a nameless sadness, or a grain of dust from deep space falling onto someone's rooftop in the middle of the night. If you imagine Earth's atmosphere after dark, countless tiny particles are racing into it at incredible speed. Most are too small to create the glowing meteor trails people wish upon in the night sky. They burn softly, or sometimes not completely at all. Then they quietly settle onto oceans, snowy mountains, deserts, rooftops, and forests, sleeping beneath the stars. There is something deeply gentle in that thought, that the universe touches Earth every day, so softly that almost nobody notices. According to Jung, the modern human mind has become disconnected from the feeling of belonging to the cosmos. We live surrounded by concrete, screens, artificial lights, and endless noise. We forget that we still live on a planet drifting through space, a world that has never truly been isolated. Perhaps cosmic dust is the gentlest reminder of that truth. If we look deeply enough, Earth is not an island separated from the cosmos. It is part of a galactic ocean, a world constantly exchanging matter with space itself. According to Jung, all living things exist within invisible relationships. Nothing is truly independent. Stars are connected to planets. Planets are connected to life. And human beings are connected to stars that died billions of years ago. Perhaps that is why so many people feel emotional when they learn that cosmic dust falls onto Earth every single day. Because somewhere deep within the mind, we want to believe that we are not completely alone in this vast universe. Imagine a tiny dust grain drifting through darkness, perhaps beginning its journey in an ancient supernova explosion. It passes through glowing nebulae, dark regions of the galaxy, the light of distant suns. Then millions of years later, it reaches Earth's atmosphere. Perhaps it falls into the ocean. Perhaps it settles inside Antarctic snow. Or perhaps it is somewhere very close to you right now. According to Jung, small things often carry the strongest symbolic meaning. A drop of water can reflect the entire sky. A grain of dust can carry the history of a galaxy. And a brief moment can completely change the way a person sees themselves. Perhaps, when we realize cosmic dust falls onto Earth every day, we begin to feel differently about this planet. No longer an isolated world floating through emptiness, but something alive and breathing together with the universe. If you stand outside on a quiet night, wind moving softly through trees, stars spread across the sky above, everything appears still. But in reality, Earth is moving at extraordinary speed around the Sunday. The solar system is orbiting the galaxy, and cosmic dust continues passing through us like invisible rain. According to Jung, human beings often feel uneasy before the vastness of the universe. Yet at the same time, we also find peace in belonging to something greater than ourselves. Perhaps cosmic dust gives us both feelings at once. It reminds us we are very small, but it also reminds us we are part of the story of the cosmos. If we look throughout human history, long before modern science existed, people already sensed something sacred about the sky. Ancient civilizations prayed beneath the stars, built pyramids aligned with the heavens, and created myths about celestial bodies. Perhaps somewhere within deep intuition, they already felt what modern science would eventually confirm. Earth was never separate from the universe. According to Jung, ancient symbols often reflect psychological truths long before science explains them. The sky has always symbolized origin, the sacred, and the collective unconscious. Perhaps that is why the thought of cosmic dust touches the human soul so deeply, because it transforms the sky from a distant backdrop into something physically touching our lives every single day. Imagine a sleeping city, soft yellow streetlights, quiet apartments, wind brushing lightly beyond windows, and somewhere above, ancient particles slowly descending through darkness. Nobody sees them, nobody hears them, yet they are still there. According to Jung, this resembles the unconscious mind itself. Most of what shapes our inner world happens beneath awareness, silently, quietly, like cosmic dust. Perhaps that is why stories about space often make people reflect so deeply. Because when we look outward, we also accidentally look inward, an outer universe, an inner universe, both filled with darkness, memory, and things almost invisible, yet incredibly powerful. If we think deeply enough, Every grain of cosmic dust falling onto Earth feels like a gentle reminder that there is no absolute boundary between us and the stars. Space does not end at the atmosphere. It continues to exist in the air, in the oceans, in our bodies, and within every atom that once belonged to ancient suns. According to Jung, modern people often suffer because they feel separated from nature, from each other, and from deeper meaning itself. But cosmic dust tells a different story. It says, everything is connected. Stars die to create material for new worlds. Worlds create life. Life learns to look upward and wonder about its own origins. Perhaps that is the most beautiful thing about cosmic dust. Not its age, not its journey across millions of years, but the fact that every night, while humanity sleeps beneath rooftops and quiet skies, the universe still gently sends pieces of itself down to Earth, like the softest touch from distant stars. Zodiacal light, beauty created from dust. One of the saddest things about the beauty of the universe is that most people have never truly seen it, not because the sky is not extraordinary, but because modern life is too bright, too fast, and too noisy for human eyes to remain patient enough to look into darkness. Today, many people spend their entire lives beneath city lights without ever seeing the Milky Way clearly. And somewhere among those forgotten wonders, there exists a phenomenon so beautiful it almost feels spiritual, yet very few people know it exists. It is called zodiacal light, a faint triangular glow appearing after sunset or before dawn, as though the sky itself were breathing softly into the darkness. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings are deeply fascinated by things that feel half real and half dreamlike. Things that are not entirely clear often touch the soul more deeply than things fully understood. A figure inside fog, a dream half remembered, or a faint pillar of light at the horizon, so subtle, many people mistake it for illusion. Perhaps that is what makes zodiacal light so special. It does not explode like meteors. It is not dramatic like auroras. It simply exists quietly, like a whisper from the universe. Imagine a very silent evening, standing far away from cities, in a desert, on a beach, or atop a cold, windy mountain. The sun has just disappeared. The sky slowly deepens into dark blue, and then, somewhere near the horizon, a soft glow begins to appear. It stretches upward like a pyramid of light, not sharp, not clear, as though darkness and light were dissolving into each other. According to Jung, ambiguous images hold tremendous symbolic power over the human mind. Because they leave space for imagination, we do not merely see them, we feel them. Perhaps that is why many people fall silent the first time they witness zodiacal light, because it makes the sky feel alive in a completely different way. No longer distant emptiness, but an ocean of light slowly moving around Earth itself. And the extraordinary thing is, that glow is created by dust, not mystical crystals, not supernatural energy, but countless tiny particles floating between the planets. Sunlight reflects from them, and under rare conditions, human beings can glimpse that entire river of dust spread across the sky. According to Jung, there is something profoundly meaningful in the idea that something tiny and nearly invisible can create beauty so immense. The same is true within the human soul. Sometimes, a small memory, a passing emotion, or a quiet moment can completely change the way we see the world. Perhaps the universe works that way too. Tiny dust grains nobody notices eventually become planets, stars, and even pillars of light, beautiful enough to feel sacred. If you look carefully at zodiacal light, it almost resembles a luminous bridge connecting Earth to deep space. According to Jung, human beings always need symbolic bridges, images helping the mind feel connected to something larger than itself. In the past, those bridges may have been gods, sacred mountains, or constellations. Today, Science offers us another form of sacredness, no longer mythology, yet still filled with wonder, because now we know that light truly is the visible trace of cosmic material surrounding our world. If you imagine the space between planets, it is not completely empty. Countless dust particles drift around the sun like an invisible ocean. During the day, sunlight is too bright for us to see them, but during rare moments, just after sunset or before dawn, the sky becomes dark enough for those particles to glow. There is something deeply similar to the inner life of human beings. According to Jung, many things reveal themselves only when the mind becomes quiet enough. In the bright noise of ordinary life, it is difficult to notice deep emotions, forgotten memories, or the true voice inside ourselves. But during quiet moments, late at night, during loneliness, or within silence, everything slowly emerges, just like zodiacal light. Perhaps that is why this phenomenon feels so emotional and dreamlike. It is not only light, it is an experience, a reminder that some forms of beauty reveal themselves only to those who slow down long enough to see them. If you stand beneath zodiacal light for long enough, you may begin to feel small, but not in a frightening way, in a gentle way, like watching the ocean at night, or hearing distant rain in darkness. According to Jung, feeling small before the universe can sometimes heal people, because it makes ordinary worries feel lighter. Anxieties, pressures, and endless thoughts suddenly no longer seem so enormous, because somewhere above all of it, dust from ancient stars is still quietly glowing. If we think deeply enough, zodiacal light feels almost like a poetic contradiction of the cosmos. Dust is usually associated with forgetting, age, and ordinary things, yet in space, dust becomes light. According to Jung, this is a powerful symbol of transformation. Many things human beings consider insignificant eventually become the source of profound beauty. An old sorrow can become compassion, a painful memory can become wisdom, and dust can become light across the night sky. Perhaps that is why this phenomenon touches the human soul so deeply, because somewhere inside ourselves, we also want to believe that even the smallest parts of our lives matter, even the most fragile ones. Imagine our ancestors thousands of years ago, living beneath skies far darker than ours today. No electric lights, no screens, and perhaps they saw zodiacal light far more often, a mysterious column of brightness emerging from darkness. According to Jung, celestial images like these often become archetypes within the collective unconscious. Ancient people may not have understood it scientifically, but they felt its sacredness. Perhaps every civilization has always known that the sky is not merely empty space. It is where human beings search for meaning, origin, and the feeling of belonging to something greater than themselves. And now, in the quietness of late night, imagine yourself standing beneath zodiacal light, soft wind moving gently, the world silent, a faint luminous river stretching upward among the stars. And somewhere within that moment, you begin to understand that the universe does not always need enormous explosions to become beautiful. Sometimes, sunlight reflected from dust is enough to leave a human being speechless. According to Jung, the most beautiful experiences can never be explained entirely through logic. We do not simply understand them, we feel them. Perhaps zodiacal light is one of those experiences, a gentle reminder that, within the endless darkness of space, even the smallest grains of dust can learn how to shine. Humans are made of stars. Long before modern science existed, human beings already felt a mysterious connection to the sky. We looked up at the stars and felt both distant and strangely familiar, as though somewhere deep within the soul, something still remembered that ancient light. According to Carl Gustav Jung, this was not a random feeling. Jung believed that human beings carry within themselves a kind of cosmic longing, a deep intuition that we belong to something larger than ourselves. Perhaps that is why star-filled nights make people reflective. We look toward the sky, but in truth, we are also looking back toward our own origins. Because modern science has revealed a truth both beautiful and overwhelming. The human body is made from the material of dead stars. We are stardust. It sounds like poetry, but it is real. If right now you place your hand upon your chest and feel your heartbeat, inside your blood there is iron, the element allowing blood to carry oxygen throughout the body. And the extraordinary thing is, iron cannot naturally form on Earth. It was forged inside massive stars. The calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your breath, the carbon inside every cell, all of it was once created within the unimaginable heat of ancient suns long before Earth existed. According to Jung, human beings are always moved by truths that dissolve the boundary between themselves and the universe. And perhaps nothing does that more powerfully than realizing we do not merely live beneath the stars, we are made from them. Imagine billions of years ago, within the darkness of an early galaxy, a giant star burning brightly. For millions of years, it slowly forged elements within its core. Hydrogen became helium. Helium became carbon, then oxygen, then iron, like a vast furnace of the cosmos. According to Jung, all creation requires pressure and transformation. That is true for the human soul, art, and even stars themselves. The elements that make life possible were not born peacefully. They were forged in fire, in unimaginable pressure, inside explosions powerful enough to shake space itself. There is something deeply human about that. Sometimes, the most beautiful parts of the soul are also born from pain, loss, and transformation. Perhaps that is why the story of Stardust touches people so deeply, because it is not only about astronomy, it is about the truth that everything beautiful has passed through darkness first. When stars die, they do not disappear completely. Some collapse into neutron stars, some become black holes, but before that, they release their material into space, gas, light, and dust. The ashes of ancient suns begin drifting through the galaxy. Then somewhere within that darkness, a cloud of gas and dust slowly collapses under gravity. That is where the sun was born. That is where Earth began to form. And eventually, that is where life appeared. According to Jung, there exists a very ancient archetype within the human mind, the idea that life emerges from death. Winter gives rise to spring. Forests burn, so new trees can grow. An old self must end before a new self can appear. Stars are the same. They die, so planets and life may exist. Perhaps every breath we take is a gift from vanished suns. If we think deeply enough, everything surrounding you right now, your bed, the air, trees, oceans, and your own body, was once dust among the stars. According to Jung, modern people often feel small and lost within the universe. But this truth tells a different story. It says, we are not strangers in space. We are part of it. We belong to the history of stars. Perhaps that is why so many people feel emotional when hearing the sentence, we are stardust, because somewhere deep within the soul, we long to know that our existence means something within this vast universe. And then science answers, you are the way the universe learned to feel itself. Imagine an ancient carbon atom, once existing inside a giant red star. After a supernova explosion, it drifted across the galaxy for millions of years. Then it became part of Earth, part of the oceans, part of a tree, and eventually, part of the human body. According to Jung, every profound journey is a journey of transformation. And perhaps there is no longer journey than the journey of cosmic matter itself. From Dina, stellar course, to dust, to planets, to life, to consciousness. There is something almost sacred in that chain of transformation. If you look at your hand beneath the gentle light of night, it is difficult to imagine that the atoms inside it were once born inside ancient suns. Yet it is true, and perhaps it is one of the most beautiful truths science has ever discovered. According to Jung, human beings always need stories about origins. Long ago, we created myths about being formed from clay or divine breath. Today, science tells another story, no less wondrous, that every atom within our bodies carries the history of the universe itself. Perhaps that is why looking at the night sky often fills people with a gentle, nameless sadness. Not only because of distance, but because somewhere deep within the unconscious, we recognize we are looking toward a place we once belonged to. According to Jung, the strongest symbols always carry two feelings at once: unfamiliarity and recognition. Stars are like that. They are unimaginably distant, yet at the same time, they exist within us. If we imagine the universe as one vast living body, human beings are not outside observers. We are part of the process itself. The universe spent billions of years creating elements, forming planets, generating life, and eventually creating a being conscious enough to ask, "Where did I come from?" Perhaps that is the most miraculous moment of all. Not when stars were born, but when stardust began to think. According to Jung, consciousness is the deepest mystery in existence, and perhaps human beings are the place where the universe first looked back at itself. If we think deeply enough, every human emotion, love, loneliness, memory, hope, dreams, is being experienced by matter that once existed inside stars. That makes life feel both fragile and unimaginably precious, because after billions of years of cosmic chaos, stardust finally learned how to love, cry, remember, and silently gaze toward the sky. Perhaps that is why star-filled nights move people so deeply, not only because they are beautiful, but because somewhere within the soul, we recognize an ancient truth, that the light above us and the life within us were never truly separate. Space is not empty. When we are children, many of us look up at the night sky and imagine that space is an endless emptiness, a cold black ocean, silent, almost entirely vacant except for shining stars. Between those stars, we imagine only emptiness, a void completely dark and meaningless. But the strange truth is this: the universe has never truly been empty. According to modern science, the space between stars is filled with dust, gas, wandering atoms, and enormous clouds of matter larger than anything humanity once imagined. The darkest regions of the sky are sometimes the places containing the most material. According to Carl Gustav Jung, this is not merely an astronomical fact, it is also a profound symbol of the human soul. Because Jung believed that things appearing empty on the surface often contain invisible worlds within. A silence can contain memories, a quiet person can carry entire oceans of emotion, and a dark region of space can be where new stars are being born. Imagine a truly dark night, far away from city lights, standing beneath a sky overflowing with stars, watching the Milky Way stretch overhead like a river of light. Among those luminous regions, there are dark bands crossing the sky like tears in the heavens. Long ago, people believed those were empty spaces without stars, but later, astronomers discovered something astonishing. Those dark regions were not empty at all. They were dense clouds of dust and gas, so thick that starlight behind them could not pass through. According to Jung, human beings often fear darkness because we assume nothing exists within it. But in reality, darkness is always filled with unseen things. This is true for the universe, dreams, and the human mind itself. Perhaps that is why deep space makes us feel both curious and uneasy, because it resembles the unconscious. We cannot see clearly into it, yet we sense something is there. If we look deeply into the clouds between stars, they are not meaningless fragments of matter. They are places where atoms gather, new stars form, and future planets begin to emerge. In other words, life often begins inside darkness. According to Jung, this is an ancient archetype. Many mythologies believed the world itself emerged from primordial darkness. In psychology, growth often begins during periods when people feel lost. Stars are the same. They are born within dark clouds where light can barely escape. There is something deeply comforting in that thought, that not all darkness is a sign of emptiness. Sometimes it is where something new is quietly forming. If we imagine interstellar space as an ocean, then dust and gas are its invisible currents. They drift through galaxies for millions of years, silently, quietly. Yet they determine where stars are born, where planets emerge, and where life might begin. According to Jung, human beings often underestimate the power of invisible things. We trust only what we can see. Yet, many of the most important forces in existence cannot be directly observed. Love, life, memory, loneliness, time, and even gravity holding galaxies together. Cosmic dust is the same. We barely notice it, yet it shapes the beauty of entire galaxies. Without dust, the Milky Way would not contain its mysterious dark rivers. Nebulae would lose their depth, and perhaps new stars would never form. Perhaps all beauty in the universe requires darkness to exist. According to Jung, light only gains meaning beside darkness. Joy becomes meaningful because human beings have known sorrow, and the brightest stars often emerge from the darkest regions of galaxies. If we think deeply enough, the universe is not like an empty room. It resembles an immense dream slowly moving through time. Everywhere there is dust is one too, radiation and ancient matter. Every empty place contains something. According to Jung, this reflects a deeply human truth. Nobody is truly empty. Even when someone is silent, inside them still exist memories, fears, hopes, and unspoken worlds. Deep space is the same. It is silent, but never vacant. Imagine light traveling from a distant star, passing through clouds of dust, cold regions of gas, and rivers of matter between stars. Dust dims that light, sometimes almost hiding the star itself. There is something profoundly similar to human memory. According to Jung, we never perceive reality completely directly. Every experience passes through emotion, memory, and the unconscious. Just as starlight passes through dust, the clouds within the soul also change how we see the world. Perhaps that is why images of dark space touch the human mind so deeply, because somewhere inside ourselves, we recognize we also contain unexplored darkness. Place not fully understood, not fully healed, yet still filled with the material of inner life. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough, you may begin to feel that the universe is not as cold as we once imagined. It is filled with movement, filled with matter, filled with things quietly becoming. According to Jung, this resembles what he called participation mystique. The moment a human being no longer feels separate from existence, you look into a galaxy, then suddenly realize the same structure exists within your own soul. Light, darkness, clear regions, mysterious regions, and countless invisible things shaping everything. Perhaps that is the most beautiful truth about space not being empty. It reminds us that silence does not mean nothing exists. Darkness does not mean meaninglessness. The empty spaces within life are the same. Sometimes, the places we believe are empty are exactly where something new is quietly being created. Imagine somewhere inside a dark cloud drifting through the galaxy, a new star beginning to form. Nobody sees it. Its light remains hidden, yet it is there, growing slowly inside darkness. Perhaps the human soul works the same way. Many of the most beautiful things within us, growth, compassion, healing, and hope, are often born during the darkest periods of life. According to Jung, darkness is not the opposite of light. It is where light begins. And perhaps the universe has always been trying to tell us this through those silent, dark rivers stretching across the Milky Way. Places that appear empty, yet are actually filled with stardust, memory, and suns not yet born. Dust helps create stars and planets. The most miraculous thing about the universe is not its size, not giant galaxies, supernova explosions, or black holes swallowing light, but the fact that everything vast and beautiful began from something unimaginably small. A star begins as dust. A planet begins as dust. And somewhere far back in cosmic history, Earth itself was once only a cold cloud of dust drifting through darkness. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the human mind is deeply fascinated by stories of creation. We want to know how worlds begin, where life comes from, and how chaos transforms into beauty. Perhaps no story answers that more gently than the story of stardust. Imagine, somewhere within the galaxy, an enormous cloud composed of gas, dust, and ancient matter. It is cold, dark, almost invisible. Astronomers call such regions stellar nurseries, a beautiful name, because within that darkness, new suns are being born. According to Jung, all profound creation begins inside the unconscious, a place dark, unclear, and undefined. Stars are the same. Before becoming radiant suns, they were silent clouds of drifting dust. There is something deeply human about that. The most beautiful things in life, a dream, an idea, a love, or a wiser version of ourselves, often begin as something faint and nearly invisible, like dust. If we could observe a stellar nursery with ordinary eyes, we might see almost nothing. The dust is so dense it hides the light forming inside. Yet somewhere behind that darkness, gravity is quietly working. Dust grains slowly draw closer together, colliding, clinging, patiently. Millions of years passing like one long cosmic breath. According to Jung, real growth always happens quietly. Trees grow without noise. Memories transform the soul silently. And planets are born inside darkness where nobody can hear them. Perhaps that is what makes the story of dust so beautiful. No rushing, no violence, only countless tiny particles slowly finding one another across space. Imagine a tiny grain of dust drifting through the galaxy, colliding with another grain, then another, slowly becoming larger particles, then pebbles, then rocky bodies orbiting young stars. Over time, those objects continue colliding and merging, and somewhere after millions of years, a planet appears. Perhaps a frozen world, a giant gas planet, or a place with oceans and life. All of it began from dust. According to Jung, this is a powerful symbol of how great things emerge from countless small things. A human life unfolds the same way. We do not become ourselves in one moment, but through small memories, small experiences, small sorrows, and small hopes quietly gathering across years. Planets mature in the same way. Tiny grains of dust slowly build entire worlds. If we think deeply enough, Earth once did not exist. No oceans, forests, bird song, or human voices. Only dust orbiting a young Sunday. Over time, dust became rock. Rock became planets. Planets cooled. Rain appeared. Oceans formed. And somewhere far later, life opened its eyes. According to Jung, human beings often search for miracles in distant places. But perhaps the greatest miracle is that lifeless matter eventually learned how to become conscious. Dust became worlds. Worlds became life. Life became memory, dreams, and soul. Imagine newborn stars, hidden within clouds of dust, their light completely concealed. Perhaps all young things require darkness to grow. According to Jung, this is true for the human soul as well. The deepest transformations often happen during periods of loneliness, uncertainty, or feeling misunderstood, like young stars growing behind thick curtains of galactic dust. Outside, silence, but within, a sun is being created. There is something deeply comforting in that thought, that not everything hidden is meaningless. Sometimes, the most important things are quietly forming inside darkness. If you look at the night sky, every shining star once passed through that stage. Once dust, once hidden, once nearly invisible. According to Jung, this is the archetypal journey of all growth, from chaos into form, from darkness into light. Perhaps that is why the story of stars and planets forming moves people so deeply, because somewhere within the unconscious, we recognize we too are undergoing a similar journey. If we think slowly enough, everything you have ever loved in this world, rain against windows, sunsets, familiar faces, music, childhood memories, exists only because dust learned how to gather together. Perhaps nothing in the universe is truly insignificant. A grain of dust can become a planet. A planet can create life, and life can learn to look upward and ask, where did I come from? According to Jung, that is the moment consciousness begins returning toward its source. Human beings gaze at the stars and accidentally discover their own history. Imagine a distant future night. Somewhere on another planet, another civilization looking toward the sky. Perhaps they too wonder where they came from, why the universe exists, and how dust became life. Perhaps every civilization in the cosmos begins with the same story: a cold cloud of dust, silent gravity, and time. A great deal of time. According to Jung, time is what transforms chaos into form. Stars require time to be born. Human beings require time to grow. And sometimes, a soul must pass through immense darkness before finding its own light. Perhaps the universe was never in a hurry. It patiently allowed dust to become worlds, patiently allowed worlds to create life, and patiently allowed life to learn how to love, dream, and feel beauty. And now, in this quiet night, if you close your eyes and imagine the planet beneath you, it is no longer merely a rock orbiting the Sunday. It is the result of billions of years of stardust slowly finding itself. A miracle made from countless tiny things. And perhaps that is the gentlest lesson the universe offers humanity, that even the smallest and most fragile things can become the beginning of an entire world. Meteors and meteor showers begin with comet dust. There may be no astronomical phenomenon that makes human beings fall silent with emotion. More than a meteor shower, in the darkness of night, when streaks of light race across the sky and disappear within only a few seconds, we almost always feel something difficult to name. A little loneliness, a little hope, a fragile feeling, as though the universe has gently touched the human soul. Long before science understood this phenomenon, people saw meteors as omens, messages from the gods, or spirits crossing the night sky. Some cultures believed every shooting star was a wish being heard. Others imagined it was a doorway between humanity and the cosmos, briefly opening for a single moment. According to Carl Gustav Jung, fleeting images like meteors possess enormous symbolic power because they remind human beings of impermanence, fragile beauty, and the finite nature of existence. A streak of light appearing and vanishing within seconds resembles a human life within the endless universe. But the strange truth is this: behind that beauty, Meteor showers actually begin with dust, not giant rocks, not stars falling from the sky, but tiny particles of dust left behind by comets. Imagine a comet approaching the sun, like an ancient, dirty snowball made from ice, rock, and cosmic dust. For most of its existence, a comet sleeps silently in the cold darkness of the outer solar system. But when it moves closer to the sun, temperatures rise. The ice begins evaporating. Gas and dust are released into space, forming the comet's long glowing tail. According to Jung, many beautiful things only emerge when something moves close to a source of warmth, emotion, and transformation. A closed human soul can resemble a comet, cold, distant, silent, but when it approaches light, it begins revealing memories, emotions, and its hidden beauty. Perhaps that is why comets always feel both lonely and romantic. They wander through darkness for millions of years, only to blaze brilliantly for a brief moment. And afterward, their dust remains behind. Over time, those dust particles stretch across the comet's orbit like an invisible river flowing through space. Then somewhere during Earth's journey around the sun, our planet passes through that river of dust. The particles strike Earth's atmosphere at tremendous speed. Friction causes them to burn, and suddenly, the sky begins raining light. According to Jung, this is a beautiful symbol of how the past continues touching the present. A comet may have passed long ago, yet traces of it remain, like an old memory, a brief encounter, or a feeling long gone that suddenly burns brightly inside the soul years later. Meteor showers are the same. The streaks of light we witness at night are actually the memory of a comet burning within Earth's atmosphere. If you have ever stayed awake to watch the Perseids or the Leonids, you understand that strange feeling. The sky feels quiet, the air cold. People often speak more softly than usual, as though afraid to disturb the sacredness of the night. Then suddenly, a streak of light flashes across the darkness, so quickly you almost miss it. According to Jung, human beings are deeply haunted by brief moments, because their disappearance is what makes them precious. A childhood summer, a final embrace, a star-filled night beside someone once loved, or a meteor existing for only a few seconds before dissolving into darkness. Perhaps, meteor showers move people not only because they are beautiful, but because they reflect the fragile nature of life itself. If we think deeply enough, every meteor is a tiny grain of dust completing a journey millions of years long. It once drifted through deep space, traveled beside a comet, through cold darkness, and finally burned brightly within Earth's sky during its final moment. According to Jung, many of the most beautiful things in existence only appear during transformation. Sunsets are beautiful because the day is ending. Autumn leaves are beautiful because seasons are changing. Meteors are beautiful because they are disappearing. There is something profoundly human about that. We too exist like brief streaks of light within the universe. Not forever, but long enough to leave traces within the memories of others. Imagine a night sky without meteors. Perhaps it would lose part of its wonder, because meteors make the cosmos feel alive, no longer like a still painting, but like a living universe, moving, changing, and forever connected to Earth. According to Jung, modern people often feel separated from nature and the cosmos. Yet, meteor showers remind us that Earth is still traveling through rivers of dust flowing through space. We are not outside the universe. We are moving with it. Perhaps that is why meteor showers often make people reflect on life, because somewhere within the unconscious, we realize we too are drifting through time like those dust particles. If we look into the history of meteor showers, Perseids, Leonids, Geminids, each one is a trace left behind by an ancient comet. These rivers of light return every year, like the breathing rhythm of the solar system. According to Jung, human beings always search for cycles within chaos. Spring returns after winter. The moon grows full and fades again, and meteor showers return year after year. There is comfort in that. The sense that even within this enormous and chaotic universe, gentle rhythms still exist. If one night you lie beneath a sky filled with stars and witness a streak of light crossing the darkness, remember this. You are watching an ancient grain of dust completing its journey. A particle once belonging to a comet, one that wandered through space for millions of years. And now, in its final moment, it burns brightly, so that a human being on Earth may look upward and feel wonder. According to Jung, that is what creates the deepest beauty in existence. Everything is connected through fragile and mysterious threads. A distant comet can create light within human eyes. A tiny dust particle can become a wish in the night, and a brief moment can survive forever in memory. Perhaps meteor showers were never merely astronomical events. They are gentle reminders that even the smallest, most fragile, and most short-lived things can still illuminate the entire sky for a few beautiful seconds before vanishing into the infinite darkness of the universe. Dust from outside the solar system, one of the strangest feelings human beings can experience, is realizing that Earth is not truly sealed off, and the solar system is not an isolated island floating in darkness. Even now, within the silent space between planets, there are dust particles entering from unimaginably far away, far beyond the edge of the solar system, far beyond the orbits of comets, far beyond every place humanity has ever reached. They come from interstellar space, from the vast galaxy beyond our cosmic home. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings naturally tend to imagine themselves as the center of existence. We create borders, identities, safe circles, and convince ourselves we are separate from everything else. Yet the universe continually whispers the opposite. Nothing is truly isolated. Everything exchanges itself with everything else. Light, gravity, radio waves, and even stardust. Imagine the solar system as a ship sailing through the galaxy, never standing still. The sun and all its planets move around the center of the Milky Way at extraordinary speed. And during that journey, the solar system travels through clouds of gas, interstellar dust regions, and streams of ancient matter drifting between stars. Some of those tiny dust particles from distant regions have truly entered our planetary system. According to Jung, this is a deeply symbolic image, because not only the universe, but also the human mind, is constantly shaped by things arriving from outside. A meeting, a sentence, a memory, a stranger crossing our path. Sometimes, something very small from the outer world can entirely transform the inner structure of the soul. Interstellar dust works the same way. It is unimaginably tiny, yet its presence reminds us that the solar system was never separate from the galaxy. If we look into deep space, there is not only darkness between stars, there are rivers of dust traveling millions of light years, carrying atoms, minerals, and memories of stars that died long ago. Some of those dust grains crossed distances almost impossible to imagine. Then, somewhere during their endless journey, they encountered our solar system. According to Jung, human life is filled with similar encounters. We believe we are living inside a familiar world. Then one day, a new idea, a new person, or a strange experience enters our lives like interstellar dust, very small, yet capable of changing everything. Perhaps growing older is simply the process of allowing outside worlds to reshape the inner one. Imagine a grain of interstellar dust. Perhaps it formed around a distant star, another sun, another planetary system. Somewhere in the galaxy, it may have passed. Glowing red nebulae, supernova explosions, or the cold blue light of newborn stars. Then millions of years passed, without destination, without purpose, only drifting through darkness. According to Jung, this resembles the unconscious journey of the human mind. Within the psyche, many memories and symbols drift through time the same way. They do not disappear. They quietly wait for a moment to touch consciousness. Perhaps everything in existence is moving toward everything else through mysterious pathways. The extraordinary thing is, human beings have actually detected interstellar dust. Spacecraft such as Ulysses and Cassini-Huygens carried instruments capable of hearing and analyzing microscopic particles striking them. And within that data, scientists realized some particles did not belong to our solar system. They came from beyond it, from the larger galaxy itself. According to Jung, human beings change profoundly whenever they realize they are not the center of the universe. Once, we believed Earth stood at the center of everything. Then we discovered it is merely a small planet orbiting an ordinary star. Now, even the solar system is understood as a tiny structure constantly interacting with the galaxy around it. There is something both humbling and deeply connecting in that realization. If we think slowly enough, a grain of interstellar dust may have crossed distances taking light years to travel. It has existed longer than civilizations, longer than human history itself. And finally, it touches an instrument created by humanity, a tiny species on a small planet, recognizing its existence. According to Jung, that is a profoundly beautiful meeting between consciousness and the universe. The universe creates dust. Dust creates planets. Planets create life. Life learns to look towards space and recognize its own history drifting past. Perhaps this is one of the gentlest stories science has ever told. Imagine the solar system as a house. Then interstellar dust resembles distant winds blowing through an open doorway. It reminds us that no wall truly separates anything within the cosmos. According to Jung, this is also true of human beings. We attempt to build the ego like a private territory, yet emotions, memories, and the influence of others always enter us. Nobody exists completely alone. No soul is truly an isolated island. Perhaps every soul exchanges interstellar dust with other souls each day. If you look into the night sky, it is difficult to sense that invisible particles from distant regions are truly passing through our solar system. Everything appears quiet. But the silence of the universe has never meant stillness. According to Jung, that is also the nature of the soul. Outside may appear calm, yet within, everything is always moving. Memories, dreams, fears, and unconscious forces continually reshaping us. Perhaps interstellar dust moves people emotionally because it destroys the illusion of isolation. It reminds us that Earth is not separate from the galaxy. Human beings are not separate from the universe, and our souls are not separate from one another. Everything influences everything else, whether we notice it or not. If somewhere out there, another civilization is gazing upward from their own world, perhaps dust from our solar system is drifting through their skies as well. Perhaps a tiny fragment of Earth will one day leave this place, wander across the galaxy for millions of years, and enter the atmosphere of another planet. According to Jung, there is deep beauty in that idea. Everything eventually becomes part of something larger than itself. Perhaps that is what interstellar dust wishes to tell humanity. That there are no absolute boundaries in the universe. Everything is drifting, exchanging, touching one another in quiet ways. A dust grain from a distant star can enter the solar system. An idea from another person can change an entire life, and a lonely soul can discover connection through one tiny moment within the vast darkness of existence. Perhaps that is why the night sky makes people feel both small and deeply connected to something far greater than themselves. Because somewhere between the stars, dust from distant worlds is still drifting silently past. A gentle reminder that the universe was never truly divided at all. Strange types of cosmic dust. When people hear the phrase cosmic dust, they usually imagine something dull and meaningless. tiny particles, faint and insignificant, floating through the endless darkness of space, like dust resting on an old bookshelf, or glittering specks drifting through afternoon sunlight. But the strange truth is this: dust in the universe has never truly been ordinary. Some grains carry the shapes of nearly perfect crystals. Some resemble ancient glass forged inside stellar winds. And a few particles have survived journeys longer than the history of human civilization itself. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings are always fascinated by small objects containing immense histories. An old watch, a yellowed letter, a stone passed through generations. Because sometimes the smallest things preserve the deepest memories. Cosmic dust is the same. Each grain is like a time capsule of the universe, a fragment of memory drifting between stars. Imagine somewhere in deep space, around an aging star nearing death, streams of blazing material are being blown outward. Astronomers call this a stellar wind. Within those currents, atoms begin cooling and crystallizing. Some form silicate grains resembling glass. Others become tiny carbon crystals. There are particles so beautiful that, under a microscope, they appear like jewelry, crafted by an invisible artisan of the cosmos. According to Jung, human beings have always associated crystals and gemstones with something sacred, because they symbolize endurance, order, and beauty existing within chaos. Stardust crystals carry the same feeling. They are born amidst dying stars, unimaginable heat, and violent streams of matter, yet somehow they still form perfect structures. There is something deeply human about that. Sometimes, the most beautiful parts of a person are also created through pressure, pain, and fragmentation. If we look at an ancient dust grain, we may be looking at something older than Earth itself. It once traveled through nebulae, survived supernova explosions, drifted through the galaxy for millions of years, and finally entered the solar system. According to Jung, objects older than human memory awaken something primal inside us, because human beings know, deep down, that we are only brief moments within the vast history of the universe. And those dust grains have witnessed more ages than all civilizations combined. Perhaps that is why the discovery of pre-solar grains moved so many people emotionally, even if they did not fully understand astrophysics, because somewhere within the unconscious, we recognize we are touching the memory of stars. Imagine a tiny crystal drifting through the galaxy, almost immortal by human standards. While empires collapse, oceans change, humanity evolves, and generations disappear, the grain continues its silent journey among the stars. According to Jung, human beings fear time. We fear aging. We fear disappearance. We fear forgotten memories. But cosmic dust tells another story. It reveals that some things can carry the memory of the universe across billions of years. Not through language, not through books, but through their atomic structure itself. There is something profoundly poetic about that. If we look deeper into these strange grains, each carries its own fingerprint. Some contain unusual isotope ratios, allowing scientists to determine what kind of star created them, under what conditions they formed, and sometimes from which era of galactic history they originated. According to Jung, everything carries traces of the journeys it has survived. Human beings do too. Experiences leave marks within. The eyes, the voiced talk, the way we love, and the silent fears we carry. Stardust also bears traces of its life. A tiny particle, holding the story of an entire dead sun. Perhaps everything in the universe is storing memory. If we think slowly enough, a crystal grain may have formed before dinosaurs existed, Earth fully cooled, or even before the sun itself was born. It drifted through infinite darkness in silence, unseen, unremembered. until humanity discovered it inside a small meteorite. According to Jung, this becomes a profound meeting between human consciousness and the universe. A tiny creature on a tiny planet, learning how to read the memories of stars. Perhaps that is one of the most beautiful things science has ever done, not conquering the universe, but listening to it. Imagine these particles as cosmic time capsules, each carrying the temperature of the star that created it, the chemistry of ancient galaxies, and the history of the space it crossed. According to Jung, human beings are also living time capsules. Inside every person exists childhood, ancestral memory, unnamed pain, and dreams older than self-understanding itself. Nobody is truly new. We carry countless fragments of the past within us. Stardust does too. Perhaps all existence is the continuation of things that existed before. If you stand beneath the night sky and imagine somewhere out there crystalline grains drifting through the galaxy carrying the memory of ancient stars, you may feel a very deep silence. The universe does not only create matter, it preserves its history within matter. According to Jung, that is how the unconscious works. Nothing truly disappears. Every experience leaves traces somewhere within the soul. Galaxies work the same way. Stars do, yet their dust continues telling the story. If we think deeply enough, perhaps one atom inside your body once belonged to such an ancient grain. It may have crossed the galaxy for millions of years. It may have existed inside the light of suns that no longer exist. According to Jung, this thought dissolves humanity's feeling of isolation. We are not separate from the universe. We are the continuation of its history. Perhaps every human emotion is born from matter that once traveled through stars. That makes love, sadness, memory, and even dreams feel infinitely more miraculous. Imagine a tiny grain of dust still drifting somewhere through darkness, not knowing where it is going, not knowing whether anyone will ever see it, yet still carrying the memory of a dead star. Perhaps human beings are similar. We move through life carrying memories, wounds, hopes, and fragments of other people within us. According to Jung, every soul is an archive of things that once existed. Cosmic dust simply makes that truth visible. And perhaps that is the most beautiful thing about the strange grains drifting through the galaxy, that even the smallest, quietest, and nearly invisible things can still carry the memory of billions of years of light, a gentle reminder that the universe has never forgotten what it once was. Dust hides the light of the universe. One of the saddest and most beautiful truths about the universe is that light is not always seen. Somewhere within the galaxy, there are stars burning millions of times brighter than the Sunday, enormous suns pouring light across infinite space. And yet sometimes, we cannot see them at all, not because they do not exist, but because between them and human eyes, there is dust. Dark clouds of dust drifting silently between stars, hiding light like an invisible veil stretched across the universe. According to Carl Gustav Jung, this is not merely an astronomical phenomenon, it is also a profound symbol of the human mind, because in life, many beautiful and important things are hidden in exactly the same way. A person may carry enormous light within them, yet pain prevents them from shining. A soul may be full of love, yet old memories force it into silence. And sometimes, what cannot be seen does not mean it is absent. Stars behind cosmic dust are the same. If we look into the night sky, the Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light across darkness. Yet between its glowing regions, dark, twisting bands appear like giant fractures within the galaxy. Long ago, people believed those places were empty regions without stars, but modern science discovered something astonishing. Those dark areas are actually filled with dust and gas, so dense that light behind them can barely escape. According to Jung, human beings naturally fear what they cannot clearly see. Darkness encourages imagination. Ambiguity creates anxiety. Yet sometimes, what is hidden is not emptiness. It is life, waiting to be discovered. Perhaps that is what makes the dark rivers of the Milky Way so extraordinary. They do not merely hide light, they protect the regions where new stars are being born. Imagine a newborn star somewhere inside a cloud of dust, heating, glowing, beginning existence as an infant sun, but from outside, we cannot see it. Its light is absorbed and scattered by dust. According to Jung, this strongly resembles human growth. Many profound transformations happen silently. Someone healing internally may appear unchanged. A soul becoming stronger sometimes grows quieter first, like young stars hidden behind the galaxy's thick dust clouds. Outside, darkness. Inside, a sun being born. Perhaps not everything hidden is truly lost. Sometimes, it is simply the universe protecting something still fragile. If we think slowly enough, dust can completely erase even extremely bright stars from view. A sun larger than ours many times over can vanish entirely behind countless tiny grains stretched across space. According to Jung, the human mind functions similarly. The dust clouds inside us, fear, trauma, memory, and insecurity, sometimes hide a person's true light, not because the light no longer exists, but because it cannot yet pass through the darkness surrounding it. There is something deeply gentle in that thought, that many people in this world have not truly lost their light. They are simply covered by invisible clouds others cannot see. If we look at modern astronomical images, dust lanes inside the galaxy resemble black rivers, arms of darkness, or giant streams of smoke drifting through space. They are beautiful in a quiet way, not explosive, not brilliant. Yet they create depth within the galaxy. According to Jung, darkness is not the opposite of light. It is what gives light meaning. Without dark regions, we could never fully feel the beauty of luminous ones. Human life works the same way. People often only understand peace after chaos, love after loneliness, and hope after loss. Perhaps all beauty requires a little darkness to become visible. The miraculous thing is this: although dust hides light in ordinary wavelengths, humanity learned to see through it using infrared telescopes. Infrared light possesses longer wavelengths, allowing it to penetrate dust clouds that ordinary vision cannot cross. And suddenly, what once appeared dark begins revealing itself. Newborn stars, hidden star clusters, regions where planets are forming for the first time. According to Jung, this is a beautiful image of understanding. Sometimes, we cannot truly understand another human being by looking only at the surface. We need another kind of sight, another kind of light, a deeper way of listening. Like an infrared telescope of the soul, perhaps, what human beings need is not always more light, but eyes capable of seeing through darkness. If we reflect deeply on that, astronomers did not erase dust in order to see the universe. They learned how to see through it. According to Jung, that is also how healing works. We cannot completely erase the past, pain, or the darker regions within ourselves, but we can learn to see through them and recognize that light still exists behind them. Perhaps that is one of the gentlest lessons astronomy offers humanity. That, even when light disappears from sight, it is still shining somewhere behind the dust. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and gaze at the Milky Way like a silver river flowing through darkness, you may begin to feel the universe is not only telling the story of stars, it is also telling the story of hidden things, things not immediately visible, beauties requiring patience before they can be discovered. According to Jung, the human soul is filled with such regions too. There are parts within us, still misunderstood, still untouched, and still unseen in the right way. But that does not mean they are absent. Like the stars behind galactic dust, perhaps, even now, somewhere within you, there exists a hidden sun like that, a light not yet recognized, a dream not yet named, a peace still covered by anxiety, memory, or quiet loneliness, yet the light remains there. According to Jung, that is the most important thing to remember about darkness. It is not the end of light. Very often, it is only the temporary veil before light can be seen more deeply. And perhaps that is what the dark rivers between the stars have been quietly telling humanity for billions of years, that even in the darkest regions of the universe, there are suns still silently burning, waiting for eyes patient enough, gentle enough, and compassionate enough to see through the darkness and recognize them. The most beautiful nebulae exist because of dust. If the universe ever tried to create art, then nebulae may be the place where it did so most beautifully. Within the deep darkness of space, there are enormous clouds appearing like ancient pillars of light, frozen cosmic waves, or mysterious creatures drifting through the galaxy. Humanity has given them names filled with poetry. Pillars of creation, Horsehead Nebula, Eagle Nebula. They sound more like dreams than astronomy. But the strange truth is this: their beauty exists largely because of dust, not because of brilliant stars, not because of colossal explosions, but because of tiny particles silently drifting through space. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings are always fascinated by things that feel half real and half mythical. What remains slightly unclear often reaches deeper into the unconscious than anything perfectly sharp. A figure inside fog, a fragmented memory, a dream barely remembered after waking. Nebulae carry that same feeling. They do not possess fixed forms, not clear and solid like mountains or oceans on Earth. Yet precisely because of that uncertainty, human imagination begins moving. If we look at images of the pillars of creation, we see enormous towers of dust rising through darkness, like the ruins of an ancient temple inside the galaxy. Blue and golden light surrounds them, while their centers disappear into thick shadow. According to Jung, this is the kind of image that awakens archetypes deep inside the human mind. We see mythological pillars, gateways between worlds, or places where life itself is being created. And the astonishing thing is, those pillars truly are regions where new stars are forming. Dust simultaneously hides, protects, and creates their beauty. Perhaps all creation requires some darkness surrounding it. Without dust, many nebulae would become almost invisible. Dust absorbs light, creating depth, shadow, and mysterious structures that make cosmic clouds resemble paintings more than physical objects. According to Jung, true beauty does not emerge from perfect clarity. It emerges from contrast. Light only becomes beautiful beside darkness. Music only touches emotion because silence exists between notes. And nebulae become mesmerizing because of the dark dust clouds refusing to let light pass through. There is something deeply human in that. Painful experiences, empty spaces, or unhealed parts of life sometimes become what gives a soul its depth. Imagine a galaxy without dust. Everything would still shine, but it would feel flat. No mysterious dark rivers, no haunting forms capable of making people stare silently at astronomical images for hours. According to Jung, darkness does not diminish beauty. It gives beauty meaning. Perhaps that is why the most beautiful nebulae always contain darkness within them. If we look at the Horsehead Nebula, we see the shape of a black horse's head emerging from glowing red hydrogen gas. But in reality, there is no horse there at all, only dust. Yet the human brain immediately creates familiar forms from darkness. According to Jung, this is how the unconscious functions. Human beings constantly search for shape and meaning within chaos. We look at clouds and see faces. We look at shadows and see memory. We look at nebulae and discover our own mythology within them. Perhaps the universe never intended to create art, but the human mind inevitably transforms it into art. If we think carefully enough, dust inside nebulae both hides and reveals. It conceals the young stars forming within, yet at the same time, it creates the outlines that tell us something is alive there. According to Jung, the human soul works similarly. No person reveals their entire self completely. Each individual contains luminous parts, dark parts, and uncertain regions between them. Yet often, what remains unspoken is exactly what gives a person depth. Nebulae are beautiful in that same way. They never show everything. They leave empty spaces for imagination to enter. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and imagine that somewhere inside those clouds of dust, new suns are being born, you may feel a very strange peace. The universe does not only create life through violent explosions, it also creates beauty through silence. According to Jung, the things touching the soul most deeply are often very quiet. A glance, a pose, a night filled with stars, or an image of a nebula where dust and light merge together like a dream. Perhaps that is why astronomical images move human beings so profoundly, not only because they are beautiful, but because somewhere inside the unconscious, we recognize we are witnessing the primordial structure of creation itself. Light emerging from darkness, form emerging from chaos, and beauty being created by tiny, invisible grains of dust. If we think deeply enough, the most beautiful things in life often resemble nebulae, not perfect, not entirely clear, but woven together from light and shadow, hope and loss, memory and forgetting. According to Jung, human beings mature when they learn to accept both the light and darkness within themselves. Nebulae do the same. They do not erase darkness. They transform darkness into part of their beauty. There is something profoundly healing in that idea, that the darker parts of life do not necessarily make us less beautiful. Sometimes, they are precisely what give the soul its depth. Imagine somewhere inside the pillars of creation, a young star beginning to shine, still surrounded by dust, still hidden, yet undeniably there, growing slowly inside darkness. According to Jung, all transformation happens like this. We never become new versions of ourselves instantly. Change usually begins silently, hidden beneath layers of fear, memory, and things not yet understood. But somewhere within, light is still forming. Perhaps that is why nebulae make people feel both peaceful and quietly sad, because they reflect the human soul itself, a place full of light and full of darkness, full of unfinished things, yet endlessly creating new life. If we gaze long enough at the dust clouds drifting through galaxies, we may begin to realize the universe does not create beauty by removing darkness. It creates beauty by allowing light and darkness to exist together. According to Jung, that may also be what human beings must learn in order to heal, not to erase the darker parts of ourselves, but to live beside them until they become depth instead of fear. And perhaps that is what the most beautiful nebulae in the universe have been quietly telling humanity across billions of light years, that even dust, darkness, and uncertainty can become art. If light learns how to pass through them gently enough. Dust, the chemical laboratory of space. One of the strangest truths about the universe is that life may begin from things so small they are almost invisible, not from giant planets, not from blazing supernova explosions, but from tiny, cold grains of dust drifting through cosmic darkness. Particles so small that, placed beside a human hair, they would almost disappear completely. And yet, somewhere upon those tiny surfaces, atoms begin meeting one another, connecting, transforming into the first molecules. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings are always fascinated by the idea that the greatest things begin in places nobody notices. A small dream can change an entire life. A brief encounter can transform a soul. A passing thought can become the beginning of destiny. Cosmic dust is the same. At first glance, it appears like leftover debris from the galaxy, but in truth, it is where creation quietly happens. If we imagine the space between stars, we often think of it as empty, frozen darkness. But somewhere inside that silence, dust grains float, coated with thin layers of ice. Upon those icy surfaces, atoms of hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon begin colliding and bonding together. Slowly, new molecules appear. Water, molecular hydrogen, methanol, even complex organic compounds. According to Jung, inner human life also begins through these kinds of connections. An emotion touches a memory links to pain. Pain gradually transforms into understanding. The soul does not change through one enormous moment alone. It forms through countless tiny connections, happening silently over time. Stardust becomes the place where matter first learns how to connect. Perhaps all life requires a place quiet enough to begin. If we think carefully enough, deep space is unimaginably cold. Temperatures so low that many chemical reactions struggle to occur freely. But the surface of dust creates a meeting place, a location where atoms can attach, remain close long enough, and eventually become something new. According to Jung, this is a beautiful image of transformation itself. Human beings also need inner spaces like that. Place quiet enough, safe enough, patient enough for the scattered parts within us to reconnect. Perhaps that is why profound loneliness sometimes heals people more deeply than noise ever can. Like the tiny chemical reactions quietly unfolding upon cosmic dust. If we observe nebulae through infrared telescopes, we see enormous dust clouds glowing softly inside darkness. Within them, the chemistry of the universe is silently unfolding. No sound, no audience, nobody watching. Yet from those slow reactions, the ingredients for future planets and future life begin appearing. According to Jung, the unconscious mind works the same way. Most profound transformations happen outside awareness, inside silence, inside dreams, inside unnamed thoughts. Perhaps all creation requires darkness and time. Imagine a tiny grain of dust floating through space, unaware that upon its surface, the first ingredients of life are slowly forming. Yet millions of years later, those compounds may become oceans, atmospheres, the first cells, or even a living being capable of gazing at the stars and wondering where it came from. According to Jung, this realization makes human beings feel both humble and deeply moved, because it means life did not appear through instant magic. It emerged from countless tiny connections stretching across billions of years. Just like the growth of a human soul, not within one day, but through memory, suffering, love, and countless quiet experiences accumulating slowly over time. If we think about water, the substance existing inside, oceans, blood, tears, and every cell within the body, perhaps part of it was first created upon icy dust grains drifting through deep space. According to Jung, water has always symbolized the unconscious and the source of life. In mythology, water represents the place where all things begin. And strangely enough, modern science is telling a remarkably similar story, that somewhere in the darkness between stars, dust and ice helped create the universe's first water molecules. Perhaps the universe has always carried the potential for life, even within its coldest and darkest regions. If we look deeper into the organic compounds found on dust, we discover molecules resembling the basic ingredients of biology, the chemical building blocks required for life. According to Jung, this idea carries immense symbolic power because it makes the boundary between humanity, planets, and galaxies feel far more fragile than we once imagined. We are not separate from the universe. We are the continuation of chemical reactions that began long before Earth existed. Perhaps somewhere inside your body right now, a carbon atom once rested upon an ancient grain of dust drifting between stars, participating silently in reactions inside dark nebulae. According to Jung, that thought changes how human beings see themselves. We are not strangers inside the cosmos. We are its continuation. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and realize that all life on Earth may have begun through tiny reactions upon cosmic dust, you may feel a very deep stillness. The universe does not create life through noise. It begins through patience, through atoms quietly finding one another. According to Jung, love and healing inside human beings often work the same way. Not always dramatically. Sometimes, every great transformation begins with a small conversation, a moment of being heard, or someone remaining beside us gently for long enough. The atoms upon stardust also remain together like that, until something new is born. Perhaps, life always requires patient presence before it can appear. If we think deeply enough, dust is not merely matter. It is the laboratory where the universe experiments with its own creativity. A place where light, ice, atoms, and time combine to create things that never existed before. According to Jung, the human soul is also such a laboratory. Inside every person, old experiences continually merge with new hopes, old pain, and dreams not yet fully formed. From this, a new version of the self slowly emerges. Nobody remains unchanged forever, just as the universe never stops creating. If somewhere out there, inside a distant dust cloud, the first molecules for another form of life are beginning to form, then perhaps the universe is still writing new stories using the same ancient ingredients: dust, darkness, time, and infinite patience. And perhaps that is the most beautiful thing about the tiny dust grains drifting through space, that despite being nearly invisible, they are quietly performing the most extraordinary act the universe has ever known, helping life begin to exist. Dust may be connected to the origin of life. One of the deepest questions humanity has ever asked is this: where did life begin? Not only in the scientific sense, but in the spiritual one as well. What caused lifeless atoms to suddenly begin feeling, longing, loving, and lifting their eyes toward the night sky? What caused the universe, after billions of years of silence, to create beings capable of questioning their own existence? According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings carry within the unconscious a very ancient longing, the desire to know where we come from, because only when we understand our origin do we truly feel that we belong to this world. And strangely enough, modern science is slowly offering an answer more beautiful and poetic than mythology itself, that perhaps some of the first ingredients for life arrived through cosmic dust. Tiny grains, cold and silent, drifting through deep space for billions of years. If we imagine the early Earth, it was not the gentle blue planet we know today. It was a world of fire, volcanoes, primitive oceans, violent collisions from meteorites and comets. The sky was darker, the atmosphere more toxic, everything chaotic and unfinished. But somewhere inside that ancient turbulence, dust and meteorites from space continually fell upon Earth, carrying carbon, water, amino acids, and complex organic compounds. According to Jung, all creation begins from chaos. In ancient mythology, the world is always born from primordial darkness. In psychology, a new self is often born only after confusion and collapse. And strangely, life on Earth seems to have begun the same way. Not from perfect order, but from dust, stone, fire, and silent chemical reactions unfolding across millions of years. If we think slowly enough, amino acids are the foundation of proteins. Proteins are the foundation of living cells. And some of those amino acids have been discovered inside meteorites and cosmic dust. That means the ingredients necessary for life did not exist only on Earth. They were already present somewhere in the universe, long before humanity appeared. According to Jung, this idea touches something very deep inside the collective unconscious, because it makes us feel we are not alone in existence. We are not an isolated accident separated from the cosmos. We were born from the material of stars themselves. Perhaps all life is simply the universe learning how to become aware of itself. Imagine a tiny dust grain drifting through the galaxy. Upon its surface rest microscopic organic molecules. Then one day, it enters the young solar system, collides with the early Earth, dissolves into the ancient oceans, and somewhere inside those dark primordial waters, molecules begin combining in entirely new ways. Slowly, the first structures of life appear. According to Jung, this resembles the journey of the human soul itself. Every great transformation begins with a tiny seed, an idea, a memory, a meeting, something seemingly insignificant, quietly changing the future forever. Stardust may have been such a seed, a tiny, invisible grain, carrying the potential for life. If we think deeply enough, perhaps the calcium in your bones, iron in your blood, and carbon inside every cell once traveled through deep space as cosmic dust. According to Jung, human beings are always searching for belonging. We want to believe our lives are connected to something larger than ourselves, and perhaps there is no greater connection than realizing we are truly part of the universe's history, not merely symbolically, but physically, literally. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and realize that part of your body once existed inside ancient stars, you may feel a strange peace. The small anxieties of ordinary life suddenly soften, because somewhere deep within, you recognize you belong to a story far larger than yourself. According to Jung, this is the moment a person touches the self, the deepest identity, connected to the wholeness of existence. No longer isolated, no longer entirely lost, only aware that everything is connected. If we look at meteorites containing organic compounds, they resemble chemical letters sent from deep space. Every molecule inside them is a trace of reactions occurring long before Earth possessed oceans. According to Jung, memory does not exist only inside the mind. The universe also possesses memory. It preserves its history within light, atoms, dust, and molecules wandering between stars. Perhaps life was never something that suddenly appeared from nothing. It may simply be the continuation of a creative process, unfolding for billions of years. If we think about this carefully, cosmic dust does not merely connect astronomy with biology. It connects stars with the human body, galaxies with oceans, and the deaths of ancient suns with the heartbeat of living creatures today. According to Jung, this type of realization can heal the loneliness of modern life, because many people live as though they are separated from nature, separated from the world, and separated from the universe itself. But science whispers the opposite, that we do not stand outside nature. We are nature. We do not stand outside the cosmos. We are one way the universe continues existing. Imagine dust grains as messengers, carrying water, carbon, and the possibility of life through endless darkness for millions of years. No sound, no clear purpose. Yet eventually, a blue planet appears. Forests appear. Living creatures appear. And somewhere upon that world, a species begins to love, suffer, create, and ask where it came from. According to Jung, this may be the most beautiful paradox of existence. The universe began with lifeless matter, yet eventually, it created consciousness. Perhaps every dying star was silently preparing for that possibility. If we think deeply enough, stardust is not merely the raw material of life. It is a bridge between matter and consciousness, astronomy and the soul, infinite darkness and dreaming life. According to Jung, every true spiritual journey begins when a person realizes they are not separate from the universe. They are its continuation. And perhaps that is the gentlest story cosmic dust has been trying to tell us through the silence of deep space, that somewhere long before oceans existed, before forests existed, before humanity existed, the universe was already quietly preparing the first seeds of life, as though it somehow knew that one day stardust would learn how to open its eyes and gaze back at the sky that created it. Dust on the moon and Mars. When human beings first stepped onto the moon, the thing that surprised them most was not the darkness of space, not the absolute silence, but dust, a layer of fine gray dust covering the surface of that silent, dead world. At first glance, it looked soft, like volcanic ash, but when the astronauts of the Apollo program touched it, they realized lunar dust was not gentle at all. It was sharp, sticky, able to slip into every crack, and almost impossible to remove. According to Carl Gustav Jung, this becomes a deeply symbolic image of humanity confronting the unknown. We often imagine distant dreams as beautiful and pure, but when we truly touch them, we discover every world contains its own harshness. The moon is no exception. Inside the human imagination, it had long been a symbol of poetry, solitude, and quiet beauty in the night sky. Yet when humanity finally walked upon it, we discovered a world covered in dust sharp as glass. Perhaps everything beautiful from afar contains another truth when seen up close. If we imagine the lunar surface, there is no wind, no rain, no oceans, no forests softening stone over time. Tiny meteorites have struck the moon for billions of years, shattering rock into microscopic fragments with razor-sharp edges. According to Jung, the absence of life often creates a special kind of cold hardness. A soul untouched for too long may also become sharp like lunar dust, not because it wishes to wound, but because it has never known water, wind, or gentleness capable of smoothing its edges. There is something deeply sad in the silence of the moon, a world existing for billions of years, yet almost unchanged. If we think carefully enough, lunar dust is unlike dust on Earth. On our planet, wind and water gradually round particles smooth, but on the moon, every grain still retains its ancient sharpness, like memories never fully healed. According to Jung, time alone does not heal everything. What heals is movement, contact, life itself. The moon lacks all of those things, and so its dust preserves primordial harshness across billions of years. When the Apollo astronauts returned to their spacecraft, dust clung to spacesuits, tools, gloves, and even the air inside the cabin. Some astronauts described its smell as burnt gunpowder. Others experienced irritation in their eyes and throats because the dust was so fine. According to Jung, this resembles memory inside the human mind. Certain experiences appear to have passed, yet still cling somewhere within us. Upon the clothing of memory, inside the voice, within dreams at night, just as lunar dust refused to leave the astronauts' suits. Perhaps every great journey leaves behind its own layer of dust inside the soul. If you stood upon the moon, everything would feel unimaginably silent. No wind, no leaves, no rain, only slow footsteps across endless gray dust. According to Jung, absolute silence forces human beings to confront themselves. On Earth, we possess endless noise to escape our inner world. Traffic, phones, work, endless conversation. But on the moon, only these remain: breathing, heartbeat, and infinite emptiness. Perhaps that is why many astronauts describe space travel as a spiritual transformation, because when seeing Earth from afar, human beings suddenly realize the things troubling us each day are astonishingly small. If we think about Mars, dust dominates that world in a different way. Gigantic dust storms can cover the entire red planet. Dust from space continues falling there every day, just as it does on Earth and the Moon. According to Jung, dust reminds us, no planet is truly isolated from the universe. Every world continuously exchanges matter with space. Perhaps all existence is more open to the cosmos than we imagine. If we look at photographs from Mars, we see pale red skies, dust-covered landscapes, and endless fields of fine sand stretching to the horizon. A world both alien and strangely familiar. According to Jung, human beings are drawn toward places reflecting the loneliness within themselves. Mars carries that feeling. A cold, dry, dust-filled world. Yet one humanity dreams of reaching. Perhaps we are always searching for ourselves within distant worlds. If we think deeply enough, dust upon the Moon and Mars is not merely a technical challenge for spacecraft. It is the physical trace of planetary history. Every grain is the result of impacts, time, radiation, and billions of silent years. According to Jung, human beings are also shaped by layers of memory dust. Nobody arrives completely new. We carry within us childhood, wounds, hopes, John, and everything touching the soul throughout time. Some parts of us remain sharp, like lunar dust. Some parts remain quiet, like the surface of Mars. But all of it is history. If we imagine an astronaut standing alone upon the Moon, before them stretches infinite space. Behind them hangs the small blue Earth, suspended inside darkness. Beneath their feet lies dust older than human civilization itself. According to Jung, that is the moment humanity touches true humility. No longer the center, no longer in control, only aware. We are tiny parts of something immeasurably vast. Perhaps dust upon other worlds moves us for precisely that reason. It reminds us the universe is not clean and perfect. It is ancient, harsh, filled with particles wandering through billions of years. Yet from that same dust, planets are born. If we think slowly enough, every world humanity has dreamed of eventually contains dust. Earth has dust. The Moon has dust. Mars has dust. Nebulae are filled with dust, as though dust itself is the shared memory of every world. According to Jung, all life carries traces of its origin, and perhaps dust is the oldest material memory in the universe, a thin layer covering planets, moons, and even humanity's dreams of exploration. If somewhere in the future, human beings build cities on Mars, the first children born there may grow up beneath skies filled with red dust, and one day, they may look back toward Earth the way humanity once looked toward the Moon. According to Jung, every generation continues the dream of the generation before it, just as cosmic dust continues drifting between worlds, carrying history from one place to another, and perhaps that is the gentlest lesson dust on the Moon and Mars wishes to share with us, that even the coldest and loneliest worlds still quietly preserve the traces of time, like dusty pages of the universe waiting for someone, someday, to touch them gently and listen to the story they have never stopped telling across billions of years. Dust can be dangerous to spacecraft. One of the strangest paradoxes of the universe is that the smallest things are sometimes the most dangerous. A dust grain so tiny that the human eye cannot see it can still damage a spacecraft traveling between planets. An object with almost no weight at all, when moving through space at unimaginable speed, can become an invisible bullet. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings tend to fear only things that are large and obvious. We fear storms, wars, darkness, and violent catastrophes, but often the things that truly wound us are astonishingly small. A brief sentence, a memory we thought we had forgotten, a quiet anxiety carried for years. Space dust is much the same, tiny, silent, almost invisible. yet carrying enough energy to damage billion-dollar machines drifting alone between worlds. If we imagine a spacecraft silently traveling through the void, everything appears calm. No wind, no waves, no sound, only darkness and stars. But somewhere within that silence, countless grains of dust are racing through space at tens of kilometers per second, faster than bullets, faster than any aircraft humanity has ever created. According to Jung, the deepest fears often come from what we cannot see. Space creates that feeling, because most dangers in the universe are invisible, and dust is one of the clearest examples. If a microscopic grain collides with a spacecraft, the released energy can be powerful enough to erode surfaces, destroy sensors, or create flashes of superheated plasma during impact. According to Jung, this resembles the human mind in a profound way. Some wounds do not come from one great collision, but from countless tiny impacts repeated over time. A little loneliness every day, a little pressure every day, a little silence never truly heard. Gradually, those invisible particles accumulate and erode the soul. Just as cosmic dust slowly wears down a spacecraft, perhaps everything fragile is shaped by things smaller than we realize. If we think carefully enough, humanity once imagined space as empty, a dark, endless ocean containing nothing at all. But the more we explored, the more we discovered. Space is filled with matter, filled with dust, filled with particles moving endlessly through darkness. According to Jung, this mirrors the unconscious mind. On the surface, we believe the mind is empty, but deep within, thoughts, memories, fears, and emotions are constantly moving. Nothing is ever truly still. Space is not empty. Neither is the human soul. If we look at spacecraft like Cassini-Huygens or Juno, they do not merely see dust, they also listen to it. When particles strike the spacecraft or its sensors, they create tiny electrical signals. Scientists transform those signals into data, and sometimes even into sound, a kind of whisper from dust drifting through deep space. According to Jung, the idea that humanity can listen to cosmic dust carries deep meaning, because maturity is not only about learning to see the world, it is about learning to hear small things, the quietest voice, the most hidden sadness, the silence between two sentences. Perhaps all profound understanding begins with listening. If we imagine Cassini flying through the rings of Saturn, billions of grains of ice and dust surround it in silence. Every tiny collision against its instruments creates another signal, a slow symphony of ancient matter. According to Jung, the universe always communicates through symbols and rhythms, not words. Stars, dust, and light all speak in their own way. Humanity has only begun learning a small fragment of that language. There is something deeply beautiful in the idea that a civilization on a tiny planet has learned to listen to the dust of distant worlds. If we think more deeply, dust does not intend to be dangerous. It is simply existing, moving according to the laws of physics. But speed and distance transform it into danger. According to Jung, many painful things in life are similar. Not all wounds come from cruelty. Sometimes, distance, silence, or difference between people is enough to create suffering. Just as a lifeless dust grain can create plasma merely because it moves too quickly through space, perhaps many dangerous things are not evil. They are simply too unfamiliar and too powerful for our fragility. If we viewed space from the perspective of a spacecraft, the cosmos would no longer resemble the poetic emptiness of films. It would become a realm filled with radiation, extreme temperatures, and countless particles racing through darkness. According to Jung, human beings also carry an inner space like this, a place both beautiful and dangerous, a place containing dreams, fears, memories, and parts of ourselves not yet understood. The journey of self-discovery therefore resembles space exploration. We do not encounter only beauty, we also confront invisible collisions within ourselves. If we think about this carefully, engineers designed spacecraft specifically to survive dust impacts. Every material layer, every sensor, every protective shield exists to defend the craft against particles nearly invisible to the eye. According to Jung, human beings also build shields for the soul. We learn to remain silent, keep emotional distance, or hide our feelings in order to protect ourselves from life's collisions. But like spacecraft, nobody can avoid every impact forever. To live is to continuously encounter the invisible dust of existence. Some collisions wound us, some transform us, and sometimes the smallest collisions shape us the most. Imagine a tiny grain of dust traveling through space for millions of years, never knowing it might one day strike the rings of Saturn, the body of Cassini, or the instruments of Juno near Jupiter. Yet its existence still creates consequences. According to Jung, human beings also rarely understand the true impact they have upon others. A small kindness, a brief encouragement, a gentle moment can create enormous change somewhere inside another person's soul. Stardust reminds us, size does not determine influence. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and realize that within the silence above, countless particles are racing through darkness at unimaginable speed, the universe begins to feel both beautiful and fragile. According to Jung, all true beauty exists beside fragility. A flower fades easily, a memory disappears easily. A small spacecraft drifts vulnerably through an enormous galaxy. Perhaps that is what makes humanity's exploration of space so moving. Not because we are stronger than the universe, but because, despite our fragility, we continue flying into darkness to understand it. And perhaps that is the gentlest lesson carried by the dangerous dust between the stars, that sometimes the smallest things possess enough power to alter the journey of something vast, just as a tiny memory can transform an entire life, or an invisible grain of dust can touch a lonely spacecraft drifting between worlds. Humanity has brought comet dust back to Earth. One of the strangest and most emotional moments in human history was the first time humanity held dust from deep space in its hands. Not rock from Earth, not material from the moon, but ancient grains of dust that drifted through darkness between the stars before the solar system itself was born. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings carry a deeply primitive longing, the desire to touch something greater than themselves. We build temples, we gaze toward the night sky, we create myths about the stars, and then one day, we launched a small spacecraft into the darkness of space, simply to return with a few almost invisible grains of dust. It sounds so small, yet perhaps it was one of the most meaningful acts humanity has ever accomplished. If we imagine the Stardust mission, a small spacecraft quietly leaves Earth, traveling billions of kilometers through cold space. Its goal was not conquering a planet, not planting a flag, not domination, but collecting dust, fragile grains, from the comet Wild 2. According to Jung, this reveals something beautiful about the deepest nature of humanity, because alongside our desire for power, we also possess a longing for understanding. Part of the human soul always wishes to listen, explore, and connect with something larger than itself. Stardust felt less like engineering and more like a spiritual journey, a search for the ancient memory of the universe. If we think slowly enough, collecting comet dust was extraordinarily difficult. The particles traveled at immense speed. If they struck solid material directly, they would shatter instantly. So scientists created aerogel, a material so light it resembles frozen smoke, soft enough to capture dust without destroying it. According to Jung, human beings also require emotional aerogels, spaces gentle enough to preserve memories without breaking them. A safe conversation, an embrace, a silence without judgment. Some things within the soul are so fragile, they can only be touched gently. Comet dust was the same. If we imagine the moment those particles entered the aerogel, they left long trails resembling frozen shooting stars suspended inside blue glass, like footprints left by ancient matter moving through time. According to Jung, every journey leaves traces behind. Human beings also carry invisible trails within themselves, memories, to loss, love, and everything that has touched the soul. Nobody passes through life without leaving marks somewhere. Dust leaves marks inside aerogel. Life leaves marks inside people. Perhaps all existence is the art of collisions. If we think deeply enough, some samples returned by stardust were older than the solar system itself. They formed around stars that died before our sun was born. According to Jung, the idea of something older than human memory awakens a sacred feeling inside the unconscious, because humanity suddenly realizes the history we know is only a tiny instant inside the story of the cosmos. Those grains existed before Earth, before oceans, before forests, and before the first creatures capable of dreaming. There is something deeply moving in imagining that. One day, a scientist inside a laboratory on Earth looked at material older than the sun itself. If we remain with that thought long enough, time suddenly begins to feel different. The years of a human life, once so vast, become only a brief breath of the universe. According to Jung, true humility begins when human beings recognize their actual size within existence, not to become hopeless, but to feel connected. Because if those particles traveled billions of years, only to end up inside human hands, perhaps the universe was never entirely foreign to us after all. Imagine a scientist opening Stardust's sample container. Inside are tiny grains nearly invisible to the eye, not glowing, not magnificent, not treasure in the mythological sense, yet containing the history of comets, the memory of ancient stars, and primordial material from the birth of the solar system. According to Jung, human beings often search for the sacred within grand things, but sometimes the deepest meaning lives inside things small and silent. A glance, a dream, a grain of dust. Perhaps the true beauty of the universe has never been about size, but about the depth of the story something carries within it. If we think carefully enough, stardust did not merely bring dust back to Earth, it brought back part of the galaxy's memory. According to Jung, every civilization attempts to preserve memory through books, paintings, temples, and stories. The universe preserves memory in its own way. Inside, light, atoms, and stardust. Ancient grains of dust resemble archival records from suns long vanished. Perhaps everything in existence wishes to be remembered somehow. If we look at the journey of stardust, there is something profoundly poetic about it. A tiny species upon a blue planet sent a small spacecraft into endless darkness, simply to ask, where did we come from? According to Jung, that is the central question behind every spiritual journey. Not only, who am I, but also, what do I belong to? And stardust seems to answer, you belong to this universe far more deeply than you realize. Not symbolically, but physically, literally. Imagine those ancient dust grains they once drifted through, nebulae, in stellar winds, and dark regions between the stars, and eventually, they landed on Earth inside human hands. According to Jung, every profound journey ultimately becomes a return. Stardust, too. After billions of years wandering, it returned to a place where the universe had begun thinking about itself. A creature made of stardust, looking at stardust. Perhaps that is the most beautiful moment consciousness can experience. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and realize that somewhere inside laboratories on Earth, human beings are studying particles older than the sun, the universe no longer feels cold and distant. it suddenly feels intimate. Like an ancient story, humanity is only now beginning to understand. According to Jung, all deep healing begins with connection, the realization that we are not separate, not abandoned, not strangers within existence. And perhaps that is the gentlest thing the Stardust mission truly brought back to humanity. Not merely comet dust, but the realization that deep inside every human being, there still exists ancient material that once traveled through the stars. As though the universe, after billions of years of silence, had finally learned how to touch its own memory through human hands. Cosmic dust exists right on your rooftop. One of the strangest and most beautiful truths about the universe is that it has never truly been far away from us. We tend to imagine space as something somewhere out there, beyond the clouds, beyond the moon, beyond the endless darkness between the stars. But the truth is, every single day, the universe is quietly falling onto Earth, onto your rooftop, into the oceans, across deserts, onto silent snow in Antarctica, down to the seafloor where sunlight has never reached. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings naturally divide existence into here and out there. We believe we are separate from nature, separate from the sky, and separate from the vast universe itself. But cosmic dust quietly reminds us there has never truly been a boundary. Space has never stopped touching Earth, and perhaps the universe has never stopped touching us. If we imagine an ordinary night, people are asleep, the city is quiet. Streetlights reflect softly on rooftops wet with dew. Somewhere above the atmosphere, tiny micro-meteorites, smaller than grains of sand, are entering Earth's skies. No sound, no blazing streak like large meteors. They are too small for anyone to notice, but they still arrive. Millions of particles every day. According to Jung, many of the most important changes inside human life happen exactly this way. Not loudly, not dramatically, not visibly. A small memory quietly changes a person. A fragile feeling slowly grows over years. A dream silently remains inside the mind for decades. Cosmic dust is another kind of quiet presence, almost invisible, yet always here. If we think slowly enough, each particle once crossed immense distances between planets. Some may have come from asteroids, comets, or ancient collisions within the solar system. They drifted through darkness for millions of years, only to finally land upon rooftops, fields, or the palm of a human hand. According to Jung, every profound journey ends in a kind of return. Cosmic dust, too. After traveling unimaginable distances through space, it quietly becomes part of Earth. Perhaps everything in the universe is trying to reconnect with everything else. If we look at micrometeorites beneath a microscope, they resemble tiny metallic or melted stone spheres. Many are too small to see with the naked eye, yet inside them lives the history of space. According to Jung, human beings often miss what is sacred because it appears too small. We search for meaning in great moments, great achievements, or great catastrophes. But sometimes, the deepest meaning exists inside things so tiny, we walk past them without noticing. A grain of dust on a rooftop, a silent moment, a brief glance. Perhaps real beauty always arrives gently. Imagine cosmic dust falling into the ocean. Small particles sinking through dark water, settling on the sea floor across thousands of years. Somewhere beneath those layers of sediment, dust from ancient celestial bodies still remains. According to Jung, the human unconscious resembles the deep ocean. Every experience, every memory, every emotion sinks somewhere beneath awareness. We no longer see them, yet they still exist, like stardust resting quietly beneath the sea. Some things never truly disappear. They simply sink deeper. If we think about Antarctica, a frozen land so silent it feels outside of time itself. Scientists have discovered cosmic dust, preserved inside ancient Antarctic ice, tiny grains sleeping quietly inside snow for thousands of years. According to Jung, human beings are drawn towards silence, because only in silence can we hear distant things. Antarctica feels like Earth's memory, and cosmic dust lies inside it like tiny letters written by the galaxy. Perhaps the universe always leaves traces of itself in the quietest places. If you stood on a rooftop at night and realized that somewhere around you, dust from deep space is slowly falling through the air, the world would suddenly feel different. The sky would no longer feel far away. It would be touching you. According to Jung, modern humanity often feels isolated because it has forgotten its connection to the cosmos. We live surrounded by concrete, screens, noise, and endless schedules. And gradually we begin believing we are separate from nature. But stardust quietly denies that illusion. Every day, the universe still enters our lives in the gentlest possible way, without demanding attention, without noise, simply by existing beside us. If we think deeply enough, perhaps somewhere on your clothes right now, there is a particle that once drifted near Jupiter. Another may once have belonged to an ancient comet. According to Jung, that thought awakens a sacred feeling inside the soul. Not sacred in a religious sense, but sacred in the sense that life is more connected than we believed. We do not stand outside the universe. We are living inside its continuous flow. Imagine, millions of years ago, cosmic dust also fell into Earth's primordial oceans. Some particles may have carried carbon, organic compounds, or ancient material from the stars themselves. According to Jung, all life begins through connection. Nothing exists entirely alone. Dust from space, water on Earth, and time itself came together to create the biological world. Perhaps all life is a meeting between things that once seemed impossibly distant from one another. If we examine a dust grain beneath a microscope, it appears meaningless, but through imagination, it becomes a traveler that crossed the galaxy. According to Jung, imagination is not an escape from reality. It is the way human beings perceive hidden depth within reality. Stardust is not merely matter. It is a symbol of the quiet connection between sky and earth, past and present, stars, and the human body. If you remain beneath the night sky long enough and feel that every day, space itself is quietly touching this world, your heart begins to soften. Ordinary anxieties suddenly seem smaller because somewhere deep inside, you realize you are not alone on this planet. You are living inside a universe that is always moving, always sending pieces of itself toward Earth, like endless tiny letters falling through time. According to Jung, human beings heal when they feel part of something larger than themselves. And perhaps cosmic dust is one of the gentlest reminders of that truth, that even during the most ordinary days, while you walk across rooftops, past oceans, or beneath falling snow, ancient particles from deep space are still quietly descending upon this world, as though the universe has never stopped searching for ways to touch Earth and touch the human soul itself. Dust is the memory of dead stars. The saddest and most beautiful thing about stars is that they never truly disappear. When they die, a star may collapse, its light may fade, its name may never be known. Yet somewhere within the darkness of the galaxy, the tiny grains of dust it created continue drifting onward, quietly, patiently, carrying the memory of a sun that no longer exists. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings deeply fear complete disappearance. We fear that memory will fade, our traces will vanish, and one day, everything that once existed will sink into absolute silence. But the universe seems to operate differently. It does not truly forget. It preserves its history within light atoms, and stardust. Perhaps every dead star leaves behind a kind of material memory somewhere in space. Imagine an enormous aging star. During the final millions of years of its life, it continuously releases matter into the cosmos. Layers of hot gas, carbon, silicon, and dust slowly drift away into the darkness between stars. Eventually, the star itself disappears, but the dust remains. According to Jung, human beings are similar. A person may leave the world, yet their voice, the way they loved, the things they touched in others, continue living on. Some forms of presence do not require a body to survive. Stardust is that kind of presence. If we think carefully enough, pre-solar grains, dust, older than the solar system, carry unique isotopic fingerprints. Through these unusual atomic patterns, scientists can determine which type of star created the grain: a red giant, a supernova, or an ancient carbon star. According to Jung, every soul leaves behind its own fingerprint within the world. No one passes through life in exactly the same way. Each person leaves behind a unique way of loving, a unique wound, a unique silence, and a unique light. Stars, too, even after dying billions of years ago, they can still be recognized through their dust. There is something profoundly gentle in that thought, that the universe still remembers stars that vanished long ago. Imagine a scientist examining a microscopic grain beneath a microscope. They are not merely observing minerals. They are reading the history of an ancient sun, a star that once burned brightly somewhere unimaginably distant, before Earth itself existed. According to Jung, this is what awakens the sacred feeling inside human beings, the ability to connect with something far beyond the span of one life. We encounter an old piece of music, an ancient myth, or light from a distant star, and suddenly feel linked to something larger than ourselves. Pre-solar dust creates the same sensation. It resembles a letter sent from the deep past of the universe. If we think deeply about that letter, every dust grain becomes a message from a dead star, not through language, not through sound, but through atomic structure, isotopic ratios, and matter forged inside stellar cores. According to Jung, the unconscious mind also communicates through symbols rather than words. Dreams do not explain directly. They send images, symbols, feelings. The universe behaves similarly. It does not write history in books. It writes history in dust. Perhaps everything truly profound speaks in silence. If you stand beneath the night sky long enough and realize that part of the dust inside your own body may once have belonged to a dead star, you begin to feel a beautiful sadness. According to Jung, sadness is not always negative. Some sadness expands the soul. Certain moments make us realize we are only tiny fragments within the immense flow of existence. Yet simultaneously, we are connected to everything in the strangest possible way. Perhaps the atoms inside your heart were once created inside some ancient sun that disappeared billions of years ago. If we think slowly enough, stardust resembles memory itself. It drifts through time, passing through nebulae, clouds of gas, and newborn planets. Then one day, it becomes part of life. According to Jung, real memory never remains still. It transforms, passing from one person to another, from one generation into the next, just as dust from dead stars becomes part of new worlds. Perhaps every ending is quietly preparing another beginning somewhere else. Imagine a lonely star dying in darkness, perhaps believing its light would disappear forever. Yet its matter continues onward as dust. According to Jung, this becomes a profound symbol for existence itself. Human beings do not survive only through the body. We continue existing within the memories of others, the things we gave to the world, and the traces our souls leave behind. a gentle sentence may survive for decades. A sincere love may alter generations. Just as stardust continues its journey after the star itself has gone dark. If we think about the solar system, it too formed from the dust of ancient stars. The sun, Earth, the oceans, and the human body are all the next generation of dead stars. According to Jung, all life carries the history of the past inside itself. Nobody begins from nothing. We are formed from ancestors, memory, and countless stories that existed before us. The universe is the same. Every planet is memory reborn from stardust. If we imagine dust as the material soul fragments of ancient suns, the night sky begins to feel different. Stars no longer appear as distant objects. They begin to resemble earlier generations of life itself. According to Jung, when human beings feel connected to a deep past, they become less lonely in the present. Perhaps that is why astronomy moves so many people emotionally. It is not only about physics. It tells the story that everything in existence is connected through time. If you remain silent long enough and realize that somewhere upon rooftops, inside the air, or within your own body, there exists dust from dead stars, you begin to understand. Death in the universe is not absolute disappearance. It is transformation. According to Jung, this may be one of the most healing truths human beings can encounter. That everything eventually changes form, but very little is truly lost forever. Light becomes dust. Dust becomes planets. Planets become life. And life, one day, returns again to the stars. Perhaps that is the gentlest message pre-solar dust whispers through the silence of deep space, that every tiny grain drifting through the galaxy is not merely lifeless matter, but the remaining memory of a sun that once burned brightly, like an ancient letter from the universe, telling us that even after light fades away, the story of a star continues somewhere within the world. Dust helps the universe recycle itself. Perhaps the gentlest thing the universe has ever done is that it never truly allows anything to completely end. A star may die, its light may disappear from the sky, but its matter does not vanish. It becomes dust, and from that same dust, new suns are born again. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings fear endings because we believe everything eventually falls into nothingness. A relationship ends, an era passes, a person disappears from our lives, and we feel as though everything has been lost forever. But nature and the universe itself seem to move differently. They do not truly erase. They transform. A fallen leaf feeds the soil. A dying star becomes dust, and that dust becomes the beginning of new worlds. Perhaps every ending is quietly preparing another form of life. If we imagine an ancient star near the end of its existence, for millions of years, it burns within darkness, forging carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron, and countless other elements inside its blazing core. Then one day, it can no longer hold itself in balance. The star begins to collapse. Its outer layers are released into space. An enormous cloud of dust appears between the stars. According to Jung, this resembles the deepest transformations inside the human soul. Sometimes, we only grow after an older part of ourselves falls apart. An old belief, an old identity, an old dream. Collapse is not always destruction. Sometimes, it is the way life prepares space for something new. If we think slowly enough, dust from dead stars never remains still. It drifts into immense clouds of gas between galaxies. Inside that cold darkness, dust and gas slowly gather under gravity, and gradually, a new star is born. According to Jung, the human unconscious moves in similar cycles. Old memories, old wounds, the parts of us that have died internally, do not completely disappear. They settle into the deepest layers of the soul, and one day become material for understanding, compassion, and a new version of ourselves. Perhaps nothing inside human experience is truly wasted. Even sorrow may become soil for something beautiful. If we look at a nebula, we are witnessing the place where the universe recycles itself. Dust from old stars becomes the raw material for young stars, a cycle lasting billions of years, never rushing, never stopping. According to Jung, every ancient culture sensed this pattern instinctively. They told stories about death and rebirth, winter and spring, darkness and dawn. Because deep inside the collective unconscious, human beings have always known life moves in circles, not straight lines. The universe moves this way too. There is no absolute ending, only transformation from one form into another. If we imagine a single carbon atom, it may once have existed inside the core of an ancient star. After that star died, the atom became dust, then entered another cloud of gas. Later, it may have become a planet, a leaf or a cell inside the human body. According to Jung, this thought softens the ego. We realize we are not separate from the universe. We are part of a flow of matter and memory stretching across billions of years. Perhaps the atom inside your breath tonight once existed inside an ancient sun. If we think deeply enough, dust is what allows the universe to remember how to continue existing. Without dust, there would be no planets, oceans, forests, or living beings capable of loving and dreaming. According to Jung, human beings also recycle themselves through memory. Old experiences, even painful losses, can eventually become the foundation for wisdom and kindness. A person who once suffered deeply may someday understand others more gently, just as a star must die for its matter to nourish future worlds. There is something profoundly healing in that thought, that not every collapse is meaningless. If you stand beneath the night sky and look toward distant nebulae, you are seeing cosmic nurseries where the dust of old suns is creating new ones. According to Jung, this becomes a perfect symbol for individuation, the deep maturation of the soul. Human beings do not become themselves by remaining unchanged. We become ourselves through loss, transformation, and inner rebirth. Just like galaxies, no star survives forever. Yet the galaxy continues living through their dust. If we think slowly enough, all life on Earth is the result of cosmic recycling. Our bodies are made from matter that once belonged to dead stars. According to Jung, this realization softens existential loneliness, because it reminds us we are not isolated accidents. We are the continuation of an ancient story, a story beginning with Hawa, dust, light, and the deaths of ancient suns. Perhaps all life is the universe rewriting its own memory. If we imagine a galaxy as a forest, then stars resemble trees. An old tree dies, decomposes, feeds the soil, and from that same ground, new life emerges. According to Jung, nature has always taught humanity, life does not resist death. It moves through death. The universe behaves the same way. It does not attempt to preserve everything forever. Instead, it allows all things to be born, burn brightly, dissolve, and become material for something new. Perhaps the deepest beauty of existence lies within this continuity. If somewhere in the distant future, our own sun also dies, its dust may merge into new clouds of gas, and billions of years later, other planets may form from matter that once belonged to Earth. According to Jung, everything personal eventually dissolves into something larger, not as disappearance, but as return. Perhaps every atom within our bodies will continue its journey somewhere else in the cosmos. If we remain silent long enough, that cycle begins to feel strangely gentle, no longer terrifying, because the universe is not a place of absolute endings. It is a place where everything continually changes form. Light becomes dust. Dust becomes stars. Stars become planets. And planets, one day, return again to dust. According to Jung, this is one of the oldest forms of wisdom. Understanding that life is not about keeping everything forever, but learning to move with transformation. And perhaps that is the gentlest message cosmic dust whispers to us, that even the death of a star is not the final punctuation mark, but merely the moment the universe quietly gathers old fragments of light so that somewhere within darkness, a new sun may begin burning once again. Dust changes the way we see the universe. One of the deepest lessons cosmic dust teaches us is that human beings rarely see the world exactly as it truly is. Between our eyes and the universe, there is always a thin veil. Sometimes it is dust between the stars. Sometimes it is memory. Sometimes it is emotion. And that veil quietly changes everything we see. According to Carl Gustav Jung, human beings have never observed reality with completely objective eyes. We always look through fear, hope, experience, and symbols hidden deep inside the unconscious. A grieving person sees the sky differently than someone in love. An old memory can change the emotional color of an entire city. Cosmic dust does the same thing to starlight. It quietly changes how we perceive the stars. If we imagine light from a distant star, it must travel through clouds of gas, rivers of dark dust, and enormous distances across the galaxy. During that journey, dust absorbs and scatters much of the blue light. The remaining light becomes redder, dimmer, warmer. According to Jung, this is a beautiful symbol for how memory and emotion shape human perception. Nobody experiences life in its original form. We always see through our own inner dust. Someone who has been betrayed may interpret silence as abandonment. Someone deeply loved may experience that same silence as peace. The light of reality passes through emotional dust and changes color. Perhaps every form of perception is light after a long journey. If we think slowly enough, astronomers themselves were once deceived by dust. A star may appear either colder or older than it truly is, not because the star itself changed, but because dust altered its light along the way. According to Jung, human beings misunderstand one another in exactly this way. We never simply see other people directly. We see them through wounds, expectations, and invisible psychological dust. Sometimes, a person is not truly cold. Their light has simply passed through too much darkness. There is something both sad and gentle in that realization, that many misunderstandings do not come from cruelty, but from the dust between human souls. If we imagine the galaxy as a vast city of light, dust resembles fog drifting through the night. It makes lights softer, colors stranger, and distances harder to understand. According to Jung, the unconscious mind resembles that fog. It makes psychological life feel symbolic, mysterious, and never entirely clear. Yet paradoxically, that very uncertainty creates depth. If the world were perfectly sharp and literal, perhaps it would lose much of its beauty. The most beautiful nebulae require dust to create shadows and dimension. Human beings do too. If we think about modern star maps, astronomers must correct for dust. They calculate how much light was absorbed, how much color was altered, and what the star truly looks like beneath distortion. According to Jung, psychological maturity resembles this same process. We slowly learn to recognize what belongs to reality, what belongs to our fears, and what belongs to old memories coloring the present. A healed person is not someone without darkness. It is someone who begins realizing, this is the dust inside me, not necessarily the nature of the world. Perhaps understanding ourselves means learning to see through our inner dust. If you look long enough at the Milky Way, You notice dark rivers stretching across the stars. Long ago, people believed those regions were empty space. But in reality, they contain immense amounts of dust and gas. According to Jung, what is hidden is not always empty. A silent person is not emotionless. A buried memory is not gone. The darkest regions of the soul often contain the most undiscovered material. The universe is the same. Darkness is sometimes the place where new life is forming. If we think deeply enough, dust does not only block light, it also creates beauty. Without dust, many nebulae would lose depth, form, and the mysterious quality that moves human beings emotionally. According to Jung, all profound beauty requires imperfection. A face too perfect sometimes lacks soul. A story without loss rarely touches the heart. Light that never passes through darkness becomes flat. Perhaps dust does not merely distort reality, it gives reality depth. If we imagine light from a distant galaxy, traveling for millions of years through space, then finally reaching human eyes, that light has already been quietly transformed by dust. According to Jung, everything we experience in life undergoes a similar journey. A sentence, a memory, a love, all become filtered through time, experience, and the unconscious mind. Nobody encounters absolute truth directly. We only encounter light after it has traveled through the dust of existence. That sounds sad, yet strangely, it is also beautiful, because it makes the world softer, more human, more alive. If we think slowly enough, dust forces astronomers into humility. They cannot simply look at the sky and immediately trust what they see. They must ask, what has this light traveled through? What is altering it? Where is reality beneath the distortion? According to Jung, every inner journey begins with those same questions. What dust am I seeing life through? What old memory is coloring the present? How much of my fear belongs to the past? Perhaps wisdom is not seeing everything more clearly. Perhaps wisdom is understanding that we are always looking through some kind of veil. If you stand beneath the stars tonight, perhaps the light you see has already changed color because of dust. A blue star, somewhere unimaginably distant, may now appear softly red in your eyes. According to Jung, that becomes a perfect metaphor for human life itself. We are not only original light, we are light after the journey. Light that has passed through time, loss, to love and memory. Perhaps those layers of dust are exactly what give the human soul its depth, and perhaps that is the gentlest thing cosmic dust wishes to tell us, that sometimes what changes the way we see the universe is not the stars themselves, but the invisible dust lying between them and our eyes, just as memory and emotion quietly color every experience in life, so that by the time light reaches the soul, it is no longer exactly the same as when it first began its journey. Dust is not just leftover matter. One of humanity's greatest misunderstandings is believing that small things are unimportant. We are naturally drawn toward blazing stars, giant planets, and violent supernova explosions. But dust seems like excess, a thin layer of fragile matter, quiet, almost invisible within the vastness of space. And yet, the more humanity understands the universe, the more we realize dust was never left over. According to Carl Gustav Jung, the same thing happens within the human soul. We often believe small emotions do not matter, passing memories will disappear, or a gentle sentence cannot truly change anything. But many times, the smallest things quietly shape an entire life. Just like cosmic dust, if we imagine a vast galaxy with hundreds of billions of stars turning through darkness, dust makes up only a tiny fraction of its total matter. But strangely, dust influences nearly everything. It changes light, temperature, chemistry, star formation, and even the structure of the galaxy itself. According to Jung, the unconscious mind resembles cosmic dust. It does not occupy the entire psyche, yet it quietly influences how we love, how we fear, how we see the world, and how we understand ourselves. There are tiny hidden parts inside the soul, quietly directing an entire life without our awareness. If we think slowly enough, dust can cool enormous clouds of gas drifting through space. Because of that cooling, those clouds can collapse under gravity, allowing new stars to form. Without dust, many stars would never exist. According to Jung, this becomes a beautiful image for the role of fragile things. A small word of encouragement may rescue someone from despair. A single moment of being truly heard may transform an entire soul. A brief embrace can sometimes heal more deeply than thousands of explanations. Perhaps life has always depended on small things we forget to notice. If we imagine a dark cloud of gas somewhere in the galaxy, the dust inside it is almost invisible. Yet even a tiny change in the amount of dust can alter the destiny of the entire cloud. Temperature changes, light changes, the possibility of star formation changes. According to Jung, small inner changes inside a human being can create similar effects. A new belief, a different perspective, an unhealed wound. Though tiny, they can quietly redirect an entire life. Some destinies are shaped by almost invisible things. If we think about light, dust both hides it and creates its beauty. Without dust, many nebulae would lose depth, shadow, and the mysterious forms that move human beings emotionally. According to Jung, psychological life works the same way. Wounds, sadness, and the imperfect parts inside us sometimes become the source of spiritual depth. A person who has never suffered may remain pure, but a person who has walked through darkness often carries a different kind of gentleness. Just as light passing through dust becomes softer, perhaps true beauty is always created through imperfection. If we look at the chemistry of the universe, dust is where atoms meet one another, forming water, organic compounds, and the molecules necessary for life itself. According to Jung, all deep transformation begins through encounter. A person encounters a memory. A wound encounters understanding. A soul encounters love. Nothing truly grows completely alone. Cosmic dust teaches us that even stars require tiny connections in order to be born. If we think deeply enough, dust influences the structure of entire galaxies. Dark lanes of dust shape spiral arms, shadows, and the distinctive forms of many galaxies. According to Jung, small things inside the soul shape the structure of a human being too. A childhood memory, a sentence heard long ago, a moment of abandonment, a moment of love arriving at exactly the right time. Those tiny experiences quietly become personality, fear, hope, and the way we exist within the world. Perhaps a human life resembles a galaxy, shaped by countless invisible particles of memory. If we stand beneath the night sky long enough, the brightest stars immediately capture our attention. But in truth, dust is often what quietly determines where stars will appear. According to Jung, human society also tends to celebrate visible success, famous people, and dramatic moments of brilliance. Meanwhile, the things truly sustaining life are usually quiet, kindness, patience, and love that does not demand attention. Just like dust, not spectacular, yet absolutely necessary. If we think about our own lives, perhaps the most important parts of your existence also came from small things. A book discovered by accident, a song heard late at night, a person who stayed only briefly. According to Jung, the human soul is shaped not only by great events, but by thousands of tiny experiences accumulating across time. Nobody becomes themselves through one single moment. We are formed from countless particles of memory. If we imagine a universe without dust, there would be fewer stars, fewer planets, fewer organic molecules, and perhaps no life at all. According to Jung, this becomes a gentle reminder. The things that appear unnecessary are often the foundation of existence itself. Human beings also tend to reject weakness, emotion, and the quiet spaces within themselves. Yet those very parts often make us more deeply human. Perhaps everything soft carries its own kind of strength. If we stand in silence and realize that a tiny amount of dust can change the destiny of an entire stellar cloud, the world begins to look different. According to Jung, maturity begins when human beings learn to respect small things: a seed, an emotion, a thought, a grain of dust. Because sometimes the thing quietly changing an entire universe is the thing almost invisible to the naked eye. And perhaps that is the gentlest message cosmic dust wishes to tell us, that in a world constantly celebrating what is large and brilliant, small things are still quietly keeping galaxies alive, just as a little hope, a little love, or one gentle memory can quietly change the destiny of an entire soul. The universe remembers itself through dust. After all the journeys we have taken together through this long night, from ancient grains of dust older than Earth itself, to silent meteor showers burning softly across the sky, to the nebulae where new suns are slowly being born, perhaps the strangest thing the universe wishes to tell us is not about its vastness, but about memory. A memory preserved not through books, not through sound, but through dust. According to Carl Gustav Jung, every profound form of existence tries to remember itself. Human beings do this through stories, dreams, paintings, music, and memories passed from one generation to the next. The universe does the same thing, but instead of paper and ink, it uses atoms, light, and tiny grains of dust drifting between the stars. Perhaps cosmic dust is the memory of the galaxy itself. If we imagine a microscopic grain of dust, it may once have existed inside the core of a giant star. Then that star died, exploded, dissolved into darkness. But the dust continued its journey. It drifted through nebulae, clouds of gas, and the cold emptiness between the stars. And one day, it became part of a new planet, a new ocean, or even a living being capable of thought. According to Jung, the human unconscious moves in much the same way. Nothing ever truly disappears completely. A childhood memory, an old sorrow, a love that has already passed. They do not always remain inside conscious awareness, but they continue living somewhere beneath the surface, quietly shaping the way we see the world. Cosmic dust is that kind of silent memory. If we think slowly enough, every story in the universe passes through dust. Stars are born from dust. Planets form from dust. Life itself grows from matter that was once dust. According to Jung, this becomes a beautiful symbol of the soul's eternal cycle. Human beings are not born from emptiness. We are shaped by ancestral memory, experience, and countless traces of the past. No one is ever a completely new beginning. We are continuations. And so is the universe. Everything inside the galaxy is the next chapter of something that existed before it. Perhaps life is not a miracle appearing from nothingness. Perhaps it is the memory of the universe changing form once again. If we imagine scientists holding grains of pre-solar dust in their hands, they are touching matter older than the sun itself. A tiny grain of dust, yet containing the history of ancient stars, the chemistry of the early galaxy, and traces of supernova explosions from billions of years ago. According to Jung, human beings have always longed to understand their origin. Not only, who am I, but also, where do I come from? And cosmic dust quietly answers, you came from dead stars. Not metaphorically, literally. If we sit with that thought long enough, a strange gentleness begins to appear. That, Our bodies are made from the memory of the universe itself. The calcium in our bones, the iron in our blood, the oxygen in our breath. All of it was born inside ancient stars. According to Jung, when human beings feel connected to something greater than themselves, existential loneliness begins to soften. We no longer feel like isolated creatures on a small planet. We begin to realize we are part of a story billions of years long. If we imagine the galaxy as a vast dream, then dust resembles the fragments of memory left behind after the dream changes shape. According to Jung, dreams are how the unconscious speaks through symbols. The universe also speaks symbolically, through dust, through light, and through the movements of stars. Perhaps everything in existence is trying to tell the story of itself. If we think deeply enough, dust does not only preserve the past, it also creates the future. A tiny amount of dust can alter the destiny of an entire stellar cloud. A slight difference in temperature, light, or planetary formation, and the future changes completely. According to Jung, human life works the same way. Tiny things, a sentence, a meeting, a small memory, can quietly redirect an entire life. Some of the greatest transformations begin from almost invisible things, just like dust. If we stand beneath the night sky and gaze into the Milky Way, we usually believe we are looking only at stars, but truly, we are also looking at dust. Dust creates the dark rivers, the depth, and the mystery of the galaxy itself. According to Jung, what gives human life depth is not only light, but also darkness, memory, and the parts of ourselves we cannot fully see clearly. A perfectly flawless life often becomes flat. It is the fragile and imperfect parts that create depth within the soul. Perhaps dust reminds us that beauty does not always exist in clarity. If we think about the deaths of stars, we realize the universe never truly sees death as an ending. A star dies and becomes dust. That dust creates new stars. According to Jung, every profound transformation inside the human soul also begins with a kind of death, the death of an old identity, an old belief, or an older version of ourselves. There is no rebirth without passing through some form of collapse. The universe seems to have understood this for a very long time. If we imagine somewhere in deep space, a grain of dust drifting silently through darkness, it is so small it almost seems non-existent. Yet inside it lives, the memory of ancient stars, the chemistry of life, and the possibility of creating new worlds. According to Jung, human souls carry invisible seeds like this too, sleeping potentials, unnamed memories, hidden parts of ourselves that may someday become light. Perhaps everything contains far more than its appearance suggests. If we remain in silence long enough, dust no longer feels small or meaningless. It begins to feel like the whisper of the universe itself, a gentle way for the galaxy to remember who it has been across time. According to Jung, maturity is not accumulating endless knowledge. It is learning to recognize depth inside things that appear small, a grain of dust, a memory, a silent moment, perhaps. The greatest secrets of existence are hidden inside the things humanity usually overlooks. And perhaps that is the final thing cosmic dust wishes to tell us, within the quiet darkness of the galaxy, that it was never merely leftover matter, but the place where the universe stores the memory of itself, from dead stars to newborn planets, to the origins of life and light itself. Every tiny grain drifting through deep space resembles an invisible library of time, carrying the history of ancient suns, and quietly reminding humanity that everything in existence, no matter how fragile, leaves traces of itself somewhere in this vast universe. And perhaps, after everything we have journeyed through together tonight, the most beautiful thing the universe leaves inside the human mind is not the enormous size of galaxies, nor the unimaginable numbers of time and distance, but the feeling that Everything is connected in an incredibly gentle way. A tiny grain of dust can carry the memory of a dead star. A cold cloud of gas can become the birthplace of a new sun. An atom inside your body tonight may once have burned somewhere inside an ancient star billions of years ago. According to Jung, human beings carry a deep loneliness within themselves. We often feel small before the vastness of existence. We look toward the night sky and think, everything out there is too distant, too cold, too silent. But the more we understand the universe, the more we realize we were never truly separate from it. We are made from the same material as the stars. We breathe oxygen forged inside ancient stellar cores. We walk upon a planet formed from the dust of vanished suns. And perhaps that is why human beings always look at the night sky with a feeling difficult to name, because somewhere deep within ourselves, we recognize we are looking back toward our own origin. Throughout this journey tonight, we have spoken about dust, the thing that once seemed smallest and most meaningless in the universe, yet dust quietly created. E.t. Stars, planets, oceans, and perhaps even life itself. It almost resembles the psychological symbols Jung once described. The smallest things, hidden within the unconscious, often become the forces shaping an entire life. A small memory, a brief dream, an unnamed feeling. Sometimes, the things we notice least quietly change the direction of the soul, just as dust changes the destiny of galaxies. Perhaps, the universe has always moved through gentle forces, a little gravity, a little light, a tiny grain of dust, drifting through darkness for millions of years. And from that, everything begins. If we think slowly enough, cosmic dust resembles human memory. It never disappears entirely. It continues existing somewhere, hidden inside. Light, matter, and new forms of life. A star dies, yet its dust continues the journey. A person leaves this world, yet their gentleness, their love, and the traces of their soul continue living inside others. According to Jung, this is why human beings are never completely alone before death, because everything leaves traces behind. Nothing that ever existed vanishes entirely. Perhaps the universe is a place that remembers, and dust is how it keeps those memories alive. If tonight you are listening to these words in the quiet darkness of your room, perhaps somewhere out there, dust from deep space is still quietly falling onto Earth, onto rooftops, beyond your window, across oceans, through the night wind, tiny grains too small for human eyes to see, yet traveling through journeys longer than all of human history. There is something deeply peaceful in that thought, that, even while humanity remains busy, anxious, and sometimes lost, the universe continues moving according to its own slow rhythm. Stars continue being born, nebulae continue changing shape, dust continues drifting through darkness between the stars. And somewhere within that endless movement, life on Earth continues existing quietly, like a small miracle. According to Jung, the deepest healing arrives when human beings feel they belong to something greater than themselves. Perhaps that is what the night sky has always been trying to tell us, that we are not outside the universe. We are part of it, a very small part, but a real one. And sometimes, simply remembering that is enough to soften the heart. If you are feeling tired tonight, remember, even stars require millions of years inside darkness before they begin to shine. If you are feeling lost, remember, every atom inside your body has already traveled farther than human imagination can fully understand. And if you are feeling small, remember, this entire world once began as tiny grains of dust drifting through cold space. Perhaps small things have always carried the power to create miracles. And now, as our journey slowly comes to an end, allow your mind to slow down for a little while. Let your thoughts drift gently like stardust moving through the galaxy. Let your body rest. like a quiet planet turning through the soft darkness of the universe. And perhaps, within your dreams tonight, you may hear the distant whisper of the stars once again, reminding you that you are never truly alone in this world. Thank you for traveling through cosmic dust and the memory of the stars, together with the YouTube channel Stories for Sleep. If you enjoyed gentle stories exploring the human mind, the universe, history, and the depth of the unconscious through the perspective of Jung, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, because every subscription helps these peaceful stories continue through many more nights to come. And now, close your eyes. Take one slow breath. Let the darkness become softer. Let your mind settle like stardust, drifting through deep space. Good night, and I'll see you again beneath the star-filled sky of our next journey.